The clerk was halfway through the property description when Leah heard the words teacher's cottage. She lifted her head. "I'm sorry, what cottage?" The woman behind the counter stopped reading and looked over her glasses. Beside Leah, Grant gave an impatient sigh. Dana was checking something on her phone, one polished thumbnail tapping the screen. The clerk turned the deed around and touched a paragraph with the capped end of her pen. The former Bellwether Schoolhouse, together with the schoolyard, stone well, outbuildings, and teacher's cottage situated thereon. "There's no cottage," Grant said. "There's a shed. The deed says cottage. It can call it Versailles. That doesn't put plumbing in it." Dana leaned across Leah, trailing a soft, expensive perfume. "Is this going to delay anything?" The clerk looked at Leah because Leah was the one whose name waited beneath the empty signature line. She thought of her mother driving the ridge road on Sunday afternoons, always alone, always saying she needed air. She thought of the 3 property folders that had been sitting in Grant's office for 6 weeks. He had shown Leah tax assessments, insurance estimates, photographs taken from the road. Not once had he mentioned a cottage. "Did Mom know it was there?" Leah asked. Neither sibling answered. Grant merely clicked his pen and nudged the deed closer. "You wanted a place of your own, Lee. Congratulations. Apparently you get 2. Leah signed. Outside the county building, November rain had turned the sidewalks black and shiny. Grant headed for his truck without opening his umbrella. He walked the way their father had, shoulders first, as if every doorway had been built a little too narrow for him. Dana lingered beneath the stone awning and tucked her phone into a cream-colored purse. "You shouldn't let him rush you." Leah stared at her. "You just asked if I was delaying anything. That was before I realized you were confused." "I'm not confused." "Okay." Dana gave her the patient smile she used when someone had misunderstood a seating chart. Overwhelmed then. There were days Leah could see exactly why people liked her sister. Dana had a way of making concern look graceful. She remembered birthdays. She sent thank you cards. At their mother's funeral, she had noticed that the caterer was running out of coffee and fixed it before anyone else knew there was a problem. She had also stood in their mother's kitchen 2 days later, tied a tag around the blue serving platter, and said, "I've always loved this," while Leah was still washing medication cups from the dish rack. "Did you know about the cottage?" Leah asked. "I knew there was some structure behind the school. I thought it was a pump house. You never went back there? In those shoes?" Dana glanced down at her suede boots, then laughed as if Leah had made the joke. "Honestly, I assumed Grant had checked it out." Grant's truck horn gave one short blast from the curb. Dana flinched. "He's in a mood. He's always in a mood. People just give each one a different name." That got a real smile from her. For half a second, they were sisters again, whispering at the end of the table while their father complained about taxes. Then Dana's gaze moved toward the folder under Leah's arm. "You know you can still sell," she said. "No one expects you to live out there. No one expects me to do anything. That isn't fair." The truck horn sounded again. Dana stepped into the rain and ran for it, one hand over her hair. "Call me before you make any big decisions." Leah watched her climb into the warm cab beside Grant. Neither offered her a ride. Her own car was parked 3 blocks away because she had fed the wrong meter, and only realized it after she was already late. The driver's side window had been stuck a half-inch open since August. By the time she reached it, the seat was damp, and the folder beneath her coat had acquired a soft, wrinkled edge. She sat behind the wheel without turning the key. The deed was hers. The phrase looked absurd even in her own mind. She owned a schoolhouse with a collapsed gutter, 6 boarded windows, and enough poison ivy to declare itself a separate municipality. She owned whatever the county clerk had called a teacher's cottage. She also owned $87 until Friday, and a car that made a grinding sound when she turned left. In the cup holder lay one of her mother's peppermint candies, furred with lint. Leah picked it up, turned it over, and put it back. 6 weeks earlier, the 3 Mercer siblings had met in the office above Mercer Hardware to divide what their parents had left. Grant had chosen the location. He said it was practical because the store had a copier. Leah had spent most of that morning packing her mother's clothes into donation bags. When she arrived, Dana was seated at the little conference table with 3 coffees and a legal pad. Grant had already written property names across the top of 3 folders: Hardware, Orchard, Bellwether. The store had belonged to their father before passing to their mother, though Grant had run it for years. The Orchard property included the farmhouse, 2 barns, and 23 acres of tired apple trees Dana described as heritage. Bellwether consisted of the schoolhouse and just under 4 acres on the ridge. Grant pushed a coffee toward Leah. It was black. "I take cream," she said. "You used to drink it black. I used to be 19. He looked annoyed by the passage of time. Dana slid over a small paper cup of milk she had taken from the cafe counter. That was Dana. She had brought the wrong coffee, but she had also brought the solution. "We need to be honest about carrying costs," Grant began. Leah sat down. "Hello to you too." He leaned back, studying her face. "You look tired. I worked last night. I thought they changed your schedule. They changed it back." "Why?" She peeled the plastic lid from her coffee. "Because warehouses enjoy suspense." Dana smiled into her cup. Grant did not. The arrangement had been presented as though the properties were slices from the same pie. Their parents' estate documents divided everything equally, but selling all 3 properties would take time, fees, repairs, and arguments none of them claimed to want. Grant proposed that each sibling take one, using older assessments and the remaining cash accounts to balance the differences. The assessment said the hardware property was worth the most, but the store came with payroll, inventory debt, and a roof Grant insisted would need replacing. The orchard looked valuable, but Dana had a binder full of agricultural reports proving the trees barely earned their pruning costs. Bellwether had land, road frontage, and no operating expenses beyond taxes and basic insurance. "No income either," Leah said. "It has potential," Dana told her. "Potential is what people say when the pipes are missing." Grant opened the Bellwether folder. The photograph on top had been taken in July from behind the locked roadside gate. Tall weeds covered the lower half of the schoolhouse. The white paint had weathered to gray, and the bell tower leaned just enough to make Leah tilt her own head. "You're not being stuck with it," he said. "We're discussing options." "Then I choose the store." The room went still. Below them, the front door chime rang, followed by the familiar wooden groan of the sales floor. Their father used to be able to identify employees by their footsteps overhead. Grant claimed he could too, though Leah had once tested him and proved he could not. "You don't work here," he said. "I worked here for 5 years. You ran a register. I did the weekend books. Under Dad. After Dad stopped remembering the vendor passwords." Dana touched the rim of her coffee. "Leah." "No, I'd like to discuss options." Grant closed the hardware folder, placing his palm flat over the word, as if Leah might snatch it. "I have 18 years in this business, and I have 3 years in Mom." Silence followed, ugly and immediate. Leah wished she could pull the sentence back, not because it was untrue, but because it made her mother's last years sound like a shift nobody else had wanted. Grant's eyes hardened. Dana looked down. Their mother's illness had arrived gradually, in missed exits and burned saucepans, then all at once in the form of appointments, pill organizers, bathroom rails, and a neurologist who spoke gently while destroying the future. Grant handled bills and insurance calls from the store. Dana came on Tuesdays and alternate Saturdays, usually with groceries and fresh flowers. Leah moved into the downstairs bedroom, deferred her classes, and learned how to sleep lightly enough to hear bare feet in the hall. Nobody had asked her to do it. That fact had become the family's favorite defense. Grant broke the silence first. "You lived in the house without paying rent." Leah looked at him. "I was changing her sheets at 2 in the morning, and I'm not saying you didn't help." "Help who?" "Mom, the family. All of us. All of you," Leah repeated. Dana slid the legal pad aside. "This is exactly why we shouldn't make the meeting about old resentment. It's 6 weeks old. I meant patterns." That word stayed with Leah. Patterns. Something elegant enough to put on wallpaper. Not Grant canceling 2 Sunday visits because the store was short-staffed. Not Dana leaving early when their mother began accusing her of stealing a red coat that had never existed. Not Leah sitting on the laundry room floor, crying so quietly that the dryer covered it. Just patterns. Grant reopened his folder. "The store is not available. Dana has already submitted a proposal for the orchard. Bellwether is the cleanest asset for you because it has no employees and no loan. And no heat," Leah said. "You can sell it. To whom?" "Someone who wants land. Then why didn't we sell it before dividing everything?" He looked toward the rain-streaked office window, because it might take a while. There it was, small and plain. Grant wanted the thing that already made money. Dana wanted the thing that already looked beautiful. They were offering Leah the thing that required patience because patience had become the only family resource they believed she possessed in unlimited supply. She should have fought. She knew that. A stronger person would have demanded new appraisals, independent advice, months of records. But strength had become another bill arriving after the money was gone. The family home was being prepared for sale. Her warehouse wages could not cover an apartment deposit and the storage unit Grant said she would need by December. "What happens to Mom's car?" she asked. "Estate sale," Grant said. "The furniture? Same. The cash account? Used to equalize. In whose favor?" Grant's jaw moved. Dana reached across the table and laid 2 fingers on Leah's wrist. Her hand was warm. "If you take Bellwether, at least you have something completely separate from us. Isn't that what you want?" At the time, Leah had hated her for making it sound kind. Now, sitting in her damp car outside the county building, Leah opened the deed again. Teacher's cottage situated thereon. The rain softened to a gray mist. She was due at the warehouse in 4 hours. The sensible thing was to go home, sleep, and visit Bellwether on her next day off. Instead, she turned the key. The engine coughed twice before catching. Bellwether Ridge lay 37 miles north, past the Orchard Road and beyond the last gas station with clean bathrooms. Leah drove with the heater blowing cold air against her knees. Grant had given her the gate key in a white envelope, along with a warning about trespassers, rotted floors, and liability. He had not given her a key to any cottage. By the time she reached the ridge, the rain had stopped. The schoolhouse stood behind its rusted gate, darker than it looked in the photograph. Weeds pressed through the fence. A broken branch lay across the path, like a challenge nobody had bothered to make difficult. Leah unlocked the chain and drove in. Up close, the building did not look quaint. It looked tired. One shutter hung by a single hinge. The front steps had pulled away from the foundation, leaving a black gap beneath them. On the faded door, someone had spray-painted "Go Home" in blue letters. "Well," Leah said to the empty yard, "that seems personal." She pulled the deed from the passenger seat and followed the property description past the stone well. Behind the schoolhouse, thorny vines rose taller than her shoulders. There was no visible path, only a shallow depression running between 2 hemlocks. Leah pushed through sideways, protecting her face with the folder. Thorns caught her coat. Wet leaves slid under her shoes. After 20 yards, she nearly turned back. Then the trees opened. A little stone house stood beneath them. Its porch sagged and moss covered half the roof. One chimney leaned away from the other like they had quarreled, but the windows were whole. Lace curtains hung inside the front room. Leah stopped breathing for a moment. Someone had swept the porch. Beside the door sat a pair of muddy rubber boots, an enamel bowl filled with rainwater, and a fresh apple with one clean bite missing. From inside came the unmistakable scrape of a chair. Leah looked around for anything that could serve as a weapon and found a wet stick the length of her forearm. The chair scraped again. "Hello?" she called. A shadow crossed the lace curtain. The front door opened 3 inches, stopped against a chain, and revealed one gray eye behind thick glasses. "If you're selling religion," a woman said, "you've picked a poor location." "I'm not. Magazine subscriptions? Does anyone still sell those door to door? Then you're trespassing." Leah lowered the stick. "Actually, I own this." The eye narrowed. "That's a popular disease. I have the deed. People wave all kinds of papers when they want something." The door closed. Leah heard the chain slide free. Then it opened wide. The woman was small but planted solidly in the doorway, wearing a red wool coat over blue coveralls. Her white hair had been cut with either great confidence or kitchen scissors. She held a fireplace poker at her side. Leah raised her folder. The woman raised the poker. "This says the teacher's cottage is part of my property. Then you can read. Usually. Good start. Are you living here?" "That depends on why you're asking, because there are boots on the porch and curtains in the windows." "Excellent work." Leah's cold fingers tightened around the deed. She had been awake since the previous afternoon. Her hair was wet, her car might not make it home, and an armed stranger was critiquing her observational skills from inside the only habitable-looking building she owned. "Look," she said, "I don't know who you are, but my name is Leah Mercer. My mother was Margaret Mercer. She died 6 weeks ago. This property came to me through her estate, and nobody told me there was a cottage, much less a person in it." The woman's face changed at Margaret's name, though not in any way Leah could easily label. Her grip on the poker loosened. You're the youngest, she said. Leah was too startled to answer immediately. You knew my mother? I knew many people, some of them against my better judgment. That doesn't answer me. No, but it answers more than you asked. The woman studied Leah from her wet shoes to the thorns snagged in her coat. Then she looked beyond her toward the schoolhouse. Where are Grant and Dana? Leah almost laughed. At their properties. Of course they are. That small judgment, delivered by a stranger, felt dangerously comforting. Who are you? Leah asked. Evelyn Shaw. The name stirred somewhere in Leah's memory, attached to an unopened Christmas card, or a sentence her mother had stopped when Leah entered the room. Evelyn stepped back. You're letting the heat out. Leah entered because she wanted answers, and because there was, in fact, heat. The cottage smelled of wood smoke, lemon oil, and something cooked with onions. Its front room was scarcely larger than Leah's mother's downstairs bedroom. A narrow sofa faced a stone fireplace. Two mismatched chairs sat on a braided rug, and an old-school map of Pennsylvania hung above a bookcase. The furniture was worn, but clean. No television, no family photographs, no pile of mail that suggested a permanent resident. A dented green thermos stood beside an open tin of crackers. On the table was the deed's elderly twin, a folded county map covered in pencil notes. You've been taking care of it, Leah said. I've been preventing it from dying of neglect. That isn't the same thing. For how long? Off and on? 15 years. And my mother knew? Evelyn gave her a look. How do you suppose I got the key? Leah tucked the wet folder beneath her arm. I don't know. You met me holding a fireplace poker. It's a sound poker. Is there a reason Mom never mentioned you? Yes. Evelyn picked up her thermos and screwed on the cap. Leah waited. The older woman did not continue. Are you going to tell me the reason? You asked if there was one. You're enjoying this. Not yet. Evelyn slid the county map into a canvas tote. Beneath it, Leah glimpsed a black and white photograph of adults seated at old wooden desks. Evelyn covered it before Leah could see the faces. I come on Thursdays, she said. Sometimes Sundays, if the weather's been bad. I air the rooms, check the traps, run the pump, and light the stove so the flue stays clear. You were here today because of the rain? I was here because it's Thursday. Leah checked the dim window. Her sense of the week had collapsed somewhere between overnight shifts and estate appointments. Do you own the furniture? Some. Do you have a lease? No. Did Mom pay you? Evelyn barked a laugh. Margaret? No. Then what was the arrangement? Mutual interference. Leah felt irritation rise, sharp enough to steady her. I'm not trying to throw you out. I'm trying to understand what I signed my name to half an hour ago. You signed before you saw it? My brother had photographs. Grant took photographs from the gate. Leah stared at her. You know that? I saw his truck. He got out, ruined a perfectly good pair of loafers, and left. When? September, 2 months before Margaret died. Grant had known the cottage existed then. Maybe he had not gone inside, but he had seen the path. He had stood close enough to photograph the schoolhouse and chosen an angle that showed nothing behind it. Leah took out her phone. One bar of service flickered, vanished, returned. Grant's name waited in her recent calls. Evelyn reached for her tote. If you're about to invite your family, I'll leave before the parade. I'm calling him. That's what I just said, Grant answered on the fourth ring. You get home, I'm at Bellwether. A pause. Why? To see what I own. Alone? The question sounded protective until she remembered he had sent her out here with warnings about rotted floors. There's a cottage. Yeah, apparently. You saw it in September. Another pause, shorter this time. I saw a roof through the trees. You told me it was a shed. I said I assumed it was a shed. No, you said there's no cottage. 37 minutes ago. Evelyn sat in one of the chairs and opened her crackers. Grant exhaled into the phone. Leah pictured him in his office, looking down at the store through the interior window, checking whether anyone could hear him. What do you want me to say? Fine. There's a small cottage. It doesn't change the numbers. It has furniture. The windows are intact. There's a stove. Then good for you. There's also a woman in it. Evelyn paused with a cracker halfway to her mouth. A what? Evelyn Shaw? The line went quiet. Evelyn bit the cracker. You need to leave, Grant said. Me or her? Both of you. Until we know what's going on. I own it. Leah, ownership doesn't mean you barge into an occupied residence. She could claim tenancy. She could claim anything. Mom was not in a state to make arrangements. Across the room, Evelyn's chewing stopped. That's an interesting sentence, Leah said, especially since Mom signed the property division paperwork 9 months ago. That's not what I meant. What did you mean? I mean, you need to be careful. You knew Evelyn's name. I didn't say I did. You stopped breathing. Don't be dramatic. Leah looked at the older woman. Evelyn's face had gone still, but her eyes were bright with attention. Did Mom ask you to check the cottage? Leah asked Grant. This is exactly why you shouldn't have driven up there tired. The call ended. Leah kept the phone at her ear for a second after the screen went dark. Charming man, Evelyn said. He gets better when you're on fire. He likes a clear problem. Your mother said something similar. Leah put the phone away. What did he mean about arrangements? You'd have to ask him. I did. You heard how that went. Then you'll have to ask better. You knew her. You have her key. You're sitting in a cottage attached to property she left behind, and my brother recognized your name. I think I'm asking the correct person. Evelyn brushed cracker crumbs from her coveralls. Margaret asked me to keep an eye on the place, she said. I did. That is the arrangement. Why? Because she couldn't come as often near the end. Why did she come at all? Evelyn looked toward the school map. Tiny black dots marked towns that had lost their post offices, mills, rail stops, or all three. Bellwether was printed so faintly it could have been dust. She didn't want the schoolhouse to disappear. Then why did she let it rot? The question came out harder than Leah intended. Evelyn looked back at her. People can fail the things they love. You should be old enough to know that by now. Leah's throat tightened. I'm going to look around. The schoolhouse floor is soft along the east wall. So I've been told. You were also told this was a shed. Outside, she drew a full breath of cold air. The thorny path seemed narrower on the return. When she reached the schoolyard, the schoolhouse stood where it had before, offering no answers and making no apologies. The front door key stuck twice before turning. Leah had to put her shoulder against the wood. The smell met her first. Wet plaster, mouse droppings, old pine, and the mineral chill of rooms closed too long. Gray light entered through gaps in the boarded windows. Her phone flashlight swept across a row of desks shoved against one wall, a toppled lectern, and a blackboard still carrying pale arcs where someone had washed it badly. Water tapped into a metal bucket near the back. Leah stepped carefully. The floor flexed under her left foot and held. On the blackboard ledge sat a piece of chalk, no longer than her smallest finger. She picked it up. For years, every choice in her life had been described as temporary. She was temporarily leaving college, temporarily moving home, temporarily taking warehouse shifts, temporarily sleeping in the room beside her mother's. Even grief had deadlines imposed by people who wanted the house listed before winter. She wrote Leah in the lower corner of the board. The chalk snapped. Strong opening, Evelyn said from the doorway. Leah turned. Do you always sneak up on people you threaten with fireplace equipment? I stepped on every creaky board between here and there. Evelyn held up a second key. This one was long, dark, and old. The cottage has a bedroom, she said. Small kitchen, working hand pump. The electrical service is unreliable, and the roof leaks over the back room when rain comes from the west. You said you weren't living there. I'm not. Then why the curtains and furniture? An empty house invites fools. What does a furnished one invite? Evelyn glanced at Leah's coat, wet hair, and tired face. Different fools. Leah looked around the schoolroom. Someone had stacked the desks rather than leaving them overturned. A broom leaned near the bucket. One window had been covered from inside with neatly fitted plywood, unlike the crooked boards outside. My family house closes next month, she said. Evelyn did not ask where Leah planned to go. I can't afford an apartment deposit yet, Leah continued. If the cottage is safe enough for you to sit around eating crackers, it's safe enough for me to sleep in. That is poor reasoning. Is it wrong? Not entirely. Leah held out her hand for the key. Evelyn regarded it, then slipped the key back into her pocket. First you learn where the shutoff valve is, she said. Then you learn which stove handle comes off in your hand. After that, we can discuss whether you're qualified to survive Thursday night. I have work tonight, then Friday. I sleep Fridays. So far, your schedule sounds very ambitious. Leah almost smiled. It surprised her enough that she looked away. Evelyn crossed to the blackboard. She touched the name Leah had written, smearing the last two letters with her thumb. "Your mother used to press too hard with chalk, too," she said. Leah's smile vanished. Evelyn seemed to realize she had said more than intended. She wiped her thumb on her coveralls and headed for the door. "Used to?" Leah asked. The older woman kept walking. "Evelyn." At the threshold, Evelyn stopped. "When did my mother write on this board?" For several seconds, the only sound was water striking the bucket. Evelyn looked back at her, no humor left in her face. "Before she learned how much your family valued people who already knew the answers." Leah waited for Evelyn to explain. Evelyn waited for Leah to understand that she would not. "What answers?" Leah asked. "The ordinary kind. My mother went to school here? Not school the way you mean it. That clears up everything." Evelyn sighed and came back into the room. The district stopped using this building for regular classes in the 70s. For a while, the county rented it for evening programs: typing, household accounts, reading help, equivalency preparation. Leah looked at the adult-sized emptiness between the little desks. Mom took classes. She took one. "What class?" "You've been awake too long." "That isn't an answer, it's an observation. You are shivering. Your pupils look like dinner plates. And you drove out here in a car that sounds as if someone stored silverware in the engine. You heard my car? 3 birds relocated." Leah crossed her arms. "What class?" Evelyn pressed her lips together. The stubbornness in her face was familiar. Margaret had worn the same expression whenever Leah asked if she needed help bathing. It meant the conversation would proceed only after everyone involved had suffered enough to prove commitment. "Reading," Evelyn said at last. "Practical reading and arithmetic." Leah laughed once, from disbelief rather than humor. "My mother read all the time. Eventually, she did the crossword in ink. Show off. She corrected menus. Public nuisance. She kept the store's books." Evelyn's gaze softened, which felt worse than if she had remained difficult. People are allowed to become good at what once frightened them. Leah turned toward the blackboard. Margaret Mercer had kept a dictionary beside her chair and treated misused apostrophes as vandalism. When Leah was 12, she had returned a birthday card Leah made because surprise did not contain a Z. She had laughed when Leah objected, then hugged her and kept the corrected version for years. "Why wouldn't she tell us? Why didn't you tell your siblings when you failed anatomy?" Leah swung around. "How do you know about that?" "Margaret, she told you I failed. She said you were ashamed to take it again." "I wasn't ashamed." Evelyn raised one eyebrow. "I was busy." People prefer the wound they can defend. Leah set the broken chalk on the ledge with more care than it deserved. "You don't know me." "No, but I knew her. Apparently better than I did." It came out petulant and young. Leah hated it immediately. Evelyn did not deny it or offer comfort. "Go to work. Come back after you've slept." "You'll be here?" "It's possible. That isn't good enough. It has served me for 71 years. Evelyn walked out, leaving Leah in the damp schoolroom with the tapping bucket and her own name blurred on the board. At the warehouse that night, every box seemed heavier than its label claimed. Leah worked in returns, where unwanted blenders, boots, coffee machines, and heated blankets arrived in crushed cartons with reasons written on adhesive slips. Did not meet expectations. Changed mind. Found better option. At 2 in the morning, she stared at those 3 phrases until they became the complete history of her inheritance. Mercer. Her supervisor, Rick, stood at the end of the conveyor in a neon vest. He was broad through the middle, with a mustache so straight it looked measured. "You planning to process that toaster? Or are the 2 of you building a life together?" Leah looked down. She had been holding the same box long enough for dust to settle on her gloves. "Sorry, you take something? A toaster? Medication?" "No, because you look bad." "Thank you. That wasn't personal. It had warmth." Rick frowned. Concern embarrassed him, especially when it escaped in front of other people. "Take 10. Drink water. I'm already behind." "You're making everybody behind." There it was. Concern safely returned to insult. Leah went to the break room, where Melody Ruiz was feeding dollar bills into a vending machine that rejected each one on principle. Melody worked 3 stations down and owned more brightly colored eyeglass frames than Leah owned shirts. "You have to compliment it first," Leah said. "I called it beautiful." "Sounds sincere. I have given this machine 8 years of my life." The bill disappeared. Melody pressed C6 and a packet of cheese crackers fell. See, Leah said. I threatened it quietly. They sat at a plastic table beneath a poster about proper lifting technique. Melody opened the crackers and pushed half toward Leah. You look haunted, she said. Rick said, I look medicated. Rick thinks lip balm is medication. Leah ate a cracker. It tasted like salt and dust. I inherited a schoolhouse. Melody chewed. Is that a metaphor? No, because if it is, I'm too tired. There's a cottage behind it. Better, there's also an old woman with a fireplace poker. Worse again. Leah explained only the outline. Her siblings had taken the store and orchard. The schoolhouse had been left to her. The deed included a cottage nobody had bothered to mention. Evelyn had a key, a thermos, and opinions about Leah's mother. Melody listened without interrupting, except to ask whether the cottage had a bathroom. I didn't check. That is the first thing I would check. I was distracted by the armed trespasser. Squatter. She says she doesn't live there. Armed visitor. She knew Mom. That's sad. The simple judgment caught Leah off guard. Why sad? Your mother had a whole person you didn't know about. That would make me sad. Leah looked at the crackers in her palm. She also took reading classes there. Melody waited. She was 23, I think. Evelyn didn't say exactly, but she couldn't read well, or do arithmetic. So she never told us. Maybe she forgot. My mother forgot where the bathroom was. She did not forget a humiliation. Melody adjusted her orange frames. Then maybe it belonged to her. That answer irritated Leah because it asked nothing of anyone. No confession, no betrayal. Just a locked room inside a person who was now dead. Rick appeared in the break room doorway and tapped his watch. Melody gathered the wrapper. Does the cottage have heat? A wood stove. Electricity? Unreliable. Rent? Leah looked at her. Melody stood. I'm just saying, haunted with no rent is sometimes better than normal with rent. By Friday afternoon, Leah had slept 4 hours and packed 2 laundry baskets. The family house looked different with half its furniture tagged. Grant's handwriting appeared on strips of masking tape. Estate sale, Dana, storage, trash. Leah found one labeled Leah on a cardboard box containing 3 chipped mugs, a vegetable peeler, and the framed community college photograph Margaret used to keep beside her chair. No one had asked what she wanted. She removed the photograph and left the vegetable peeler. Dana arrived while Leah was carrying blankets to the car. Her sister parked behind her in the driveway and got out holding 2 paper shopping bags. I brought lunch, she announced. For who? Us. Grant's coming. Why? Dana's smile faltered. Because it's a house meeting. Leah shifted the blankets against her hip. I didn't know we had one. I texted you. You sent, "Are you awake?" at 9 in the morning. And you didn't answer. I went to bed at 8:30. Dana looked into Leah's back seat. What are you doing? Taking some things. To storage? The cottage? The bags crinkled in Dana's grip. You're not serious. I am rarely this funny. Grant said there's a woman living there. She isn't? He thinks there may be a legal issue. Grant thinks a closed door is a legal issue if he isn't holding the key. Dana glanced toward the neighboring houses as if Leah's voice might lower property values. Can we go inside? She asked. The kitchen smelled faintly of bleach. Its counters were bare except for the blue serving platter Dana had tagged the week after the funeral. She had propped it upright against the backsplash, ready to be packed. Dana unloaded turkey sandwiches, 2 cups of soup, and a small lemon cake. Is this an intervention? Leah asked. It's lunch. Grant doesn't eat lemon cake. He does now. People really can change. Dana folded the empty bags into a precise square. What do you know about this Evelyn person? She taught Mom. Dana stopped folding. Leah watched her face. You knew? No, she taught adult classes at Bellwether. Mom took reading and arithmetic. Mom could read. Eventually, yes, that was pointed out to me. Dana pulled out a chair and sat. Who told you this? The woman with the poker. This isn't funny, Leah. I know. That's why I keep trying. Dana looked toward the empty doorway to the dining room. Margaret's chair had been removed for cleaning, leaving 4 pale dents in the carpet. When was this supposed to be? She asked. Before Dad, I assume. And Mom just happened to leave you the schoolhouse? She didn't. We divided the properties. But she put it in the estate. Everything was in the estate. You know what I mean? Leah did. Dana wanted a pattern now, that the pattern might favor Leah. Mom didn't choose me for it, Leah said. You and Grant chose first. That makes it sound ugly. It was ugly. Dana's mouth tightened. She got up and began opening kitchen drawers, an old habit whenever conversation stopped behaving. I wanted the orchard because she and I talked about it, she said. She liked my ideas, I know. And Grant has been running the store since Dad got sick. I know that too. Then don't act like we took things at random. Leah leaned against the counter. I'm not. You each took the place where you could already imagine yourself, and you couldn't imagine yourself anywhere. The sentence landed cleanly. Dana heard it after she said it. Her hand froze inside the silverware drawer. Leah looked away first. A car door slammed outside. Grant, arriving for the house meeting nobody had scheduled with her. Dana closed the drawer. I didn't mean it like that. You did. I meant you've been unsettled. I was taking care of Mom. And before that, Leah picked up the blue serving platter. Dana stepped forward. That's mine. Leah turned it over. On the bottom, beneath the maker's mark, Margaret had written in black permanent ink, School Supper, 1998. What school? Leah asked. Dana stared at the words. Grant entered through the mudroom, calling that he only had 20 minutes. Leah carried the platter past him. Where are you going? He asked. To imagine myself somewhere. She drove to Bellwether with the platter wrapped in one of Margaret's blankets. The sky had cleared, but wind pushed hard against the car on the ridge. Evelyn's sedan was parked beside the gate. This time the thorny path had been cut back. Evelyn stood on the cottage porch with a toolbox at her feet and the old key in her hand. You're late, she said. We didn't set a time. I did. You weren't there. Leah climbed the steps with the wrapped platter. Evelyn looked at the laundry baskets in the car, then at Leah. Did you check the bathroom? No. Poor planning. Apparently I lack imagination. Evelyn held out the key. Leah took it before either of them could change her mind. It was heavier than it looked. Inside the cottage, the back room ceiling had a brown stain, the shape of a spreading hand. The kitchen tap coughed rust before running clear. One burner worked if the switch was held between settings. The bathroom consisted of a narrow shower, a toilet with a cracked wooden seat, and a sink that leaned toward the floor. Leah tested the light. It flickered on. From the front room, Evelyn called, Don't celebrate. The refrigerator and the bedroom lamp can't run at the same time. Leah returned carrying the blue platter. Evelyn saw the writing on its underside and went completely still. What was the school supper? Leah asked. Evelyn set the toolbox down carefully. Where did you find that? In my mother's kitchen. It should have been here. Why? Evelyn ran her fingertips over the date, and for once she seemed to have no clever answer ready. Because, she said quietly, that was the night Margaret promised we would open the doors again. Leah looked from the date to Evelyn. Who was we? People with more enthusiasm than money. That describes most bad decisions. It also describes most useful ones. Evelyn carried the platter to the kitchen table and unwrapped the blanket completely. The blue glaze was scratched in the center from years of carving knives and serving spoons. Leah remembered mashed potatoes piled on it at Thanksgiving, asparagus at Easter, dry slices of ham after her father's funeral. Her mother had used it for every occasion except the one written underneath. In 1998, a group of former students held a supper here, Evelyn said. The schoolhouse had been empty for years. The roof was already leaking, though not as creatively as it does now. Margaret convinced your father to buy the parcel before someone stripped the stone and burned the rest. Why would Dad agree? He was in love with her. Leah almost objected. Her parents had not seemed like people who did things for love. They did things because the gutters needed clearing or because pork chops were discounted. Affection came disguised as windshield fluid topped off before winter. Evelyn traced the platter's rim. Margaret stood at the front of that room and said we'd reopen by spring. Evening classes, trade workshops, a place for adults who didn't want to explain themselves to a receptionist at the community college. And then, spring came. That's it. Then another one. Leah set the cottage key beside the platter. Why buy the property if she wasn't going to use it? Buying was the part your father understood. After that, every repair cost too much. Every insurance question became a reason to wait, and the store needed her. Your father always needed her. Later, Grant needed her. And you? Evelyn's fingers left the platter. I stopped asking. There was enough bitterness in the answer to make Leah feel protective of her mother, which annoyed her. Margaret had been dead 6 weeks and was still arranging people against one another. She was taking care of a family, Leah said. Yes, that matters. Yes. You make it sound like she just got lazy. I make it sound like she broke a promise. The cottage seemed smaller, with both truths inside it. Evelyn opened her toolbox and removed a flashlight, 2 screwdrivers, and a roll of black electrical tape. The breaker panel is in the bedroom closet. If you smell hot plastic, turn off the main switch and leave. The stove draws badly until the flue warms. Do not close the bathroom door all the way, unless you want to meet the fire department with your pants down. Why? The latch sticks. You could fix it. So could you. Leah followed her through the cottage, taking notes on the back of an estate sale flyer. The shutoff valve hid beneath the kitchen sink behind 3 jars of rusted screws. The pump switch was beside the refrigerator, but labeled porch. A metal bucket caught water in the back room, though the ceiling above it was dry. That leak only comes with west rain, Evelyn said. You've mentioned, you'll forget. I wrote it down. You'll lose the paper. Leah folded the flyer and put it in her pocket. Evelyn watched her. You'll wash those coveralls with it. Do you want me to stay here or not? It makes no difference to me. Then why did you cut the path? So I could carry my toolbox without donating blood. Why did you bring the spare key? Because locks should have spares. Evelyn, the older woman picked up her coat from the sofa. I don't know you well enough to want things for you. It was the most honest kindness Leah had received since the funeral. She slept that afternoon on the cottage sofa beneath 2 of Margaret's blankets. At 5, a truck changing gears on the ridge woke her. For one confused second, she expected to hear her mother calling from the hall. Instead, the cottage answered with the tick of cooling pipes. Her phone showed 3 missed calls from Grant, 1 from Dana, and a text from Rick asking whether she could take an extra shift Sunday. Beneath those was a message from Dana. You took my platter. Leah typed, Mom wrote Bellwether on it. Dana answered before Leah could set the phone down. That doesn't make it yours. Leah looked at the platter propped on the kitchen counter. Neither did the tag she wrote. The typing bubble appeared, vanished, returned. We were supposed to discuss household items today. Grant is concerned you're removing things without recording them. Leah photographed the platter, the cracked sink, the bucket, and the bedroom barely wide enough for a full mattress. She sent all 4 images. Please record that I traded 1 platter for indoor plumbing of uncertain character. Dana did not reply. Leah worked through the night, returned to the family house at dawn, and loaded her car while Grant was opening the hardware store. She took her clothes, the framed college photograph, a dented saucepan, 4 towels, and the old radio from her mother's bedroom. She left the furniture with tags on it, including the lamp marked storage that had always belonged to Leah. By Sunday, she had moved into the cottage in the technical sense. Her mattress lay on the bedroom floor. Her clothes occupied laundry baskets. The refrigerator contained mustard, milk, and half a turkey sandwich Dana had packed before their argument. Wind pressed damp leaves against the windows. Leah stood in the schoolhouse with a legal pad and made a list. Roof, floor, windows, electric, plumbing. The building replied by dropping a piece of plaster near her shoe. She added helmet. The east wall was worse in daylight. Rain had darkened 3 floorboards to the color of coffee. She prodded one with a broom handle, and it gave way with a soft, rotten sigh. Beneath it, the crawlspace smelled of wet earth. Grant had been right about that much. The schoolhouse was not a weekend with paintbrushes and cheerful music. It was years of postponed damage waiting to be charged to the first person foolish enough to care. She called 2 roofing companies. One refused to come that far without a service fee. The other offered an inspection appointment in 3 weeks. At Mercer Hardware's website, she filled a cart with tarps, roof cement, rope, gloves, and plywood. The total came to $261. Leah closed the page. She found used tarps online and drove 20 miles to buy them from a man who insisted they had only a few pinholes. Held against the light, they resembled a planetarium. On her way back, the car's left turn produced a grinding shriek so loud that a man at the gas station covered his ears. "Bearing," he called. "What?" "Wheel bearing. Can it wait?" The man considered the car. "Depends how attached you are to the wheel." She drove the remaining miles without turning left whenever possible. At Bellwether, Leah spread 1 tarp over the cottage porch and began cutting back the dead brush along the schoolhouse wall. What started as a path became a pile. The pile became 3 piles. By late afternoon, her hands shook from the hedge clippers, and a blister had opened beneath her right thumb. She found an old steel drum behind the shed that was not a cottage. It contained ash and rusted nails. Evelyn had left matches beside the wood stove. The brush was wet enough that Leah had to coax the fire with newspaper and a strip of broken desk. Once it caught, smoke rolled low across the yard. She fed in thorny branches one armful at a time, enjoying the brief violence of them collapsing into flame. What in God's green confusion are you doing? Evelyn came through the path carrying 2 grocery bags. She dropped both on the ground and ran toward the drum with astonishing speed. "Burning brush," Leah said. "You are burning poison ivy." Leah looked at the vines in her gloved hands. Evelyn snatched them away and threw them onto the wet grass. "The smoke can put you in the hospital. Get back." "I didn't know." "No, you didn't. That is becoming a theme." Together they smothered the fire with buckets from the pump. Gray water and ash sloshed over Leah's boots. Evelyn coughed into her elbow, then rounded on her. "You don't burn unidentified vines. You don't climb wet roofs. You don't poke rotten floors and lean over the hole. Did nobody teach you self-preservation? I took a warehouse safety module. You failed. I passed with 92%. Then send the remaining 8% over here before you kill us." Leah peeled off her gloves. Her blister had broken completely. "I'm trying to clean the place." "You're trying to make visible progress because the real problems frighten you. Is that what you told my mother?" Evelyn's anger went quiet. Leah regretted it, but not enough to apologize first. Evelyn picked up her grocery bags. One had fallen sideways, spilling coffee, canned soup, and a package of work gloves into the weeds. "You bought those for me?" Leah asked. "I bought them because the cottage has no food. There's mustard." Then I stand corrected. Leah crouched and gathered the cans. Evelyn took the coffee from her, but allowed her to carry the gloves. "I called roofers," Leah said. "And? I'm too poor to be interesting. Accurate. I found a repair video." "No, you haven't seen it. I don't need to watch a stranger encourage you onto a ladder. What am I supposed to do?" Evelyn looked at the schoolhouse. "Decide what you are doing before you start doing it. I'm keeping the roof from getting worse." "For winter?" "Yes." "And after winter?" Leah had no answer. Evelyn nodded toward the legal pad visible through the open schoolhouse door. "A list of damaged parts is not a plan." "I never said it was." "No, you wrote it in capital letters." Leah went inside and tore the page from the pad. On the next sheet, she wrote "sell." The word sat alone, hard and sensible. Evelyn placed the groceries on the lectern. "You'd get land value minus demolition." "I know." "Grant probably has someone in mind." Leah's pen stopped. "What does that mean?" "Nothing criminal, if that's where your imagination went. People mention properties. Your brother talks to half the county across a sales counter. He said it might take a while to sell. It might, but he knew somebody could want it. Somebody always wants land at the right price." Leah thought of Grant closing his palm over the hardware folder. Dana saying Bellwether had potential in the careful voice people use to recommend vegetables. She crossed out "sell" so hard the paper tore. "That is not a plan either," Evelyn said. "I know." But that night, instead of sleeping before work, Leah posted a photograph of the schoolhouse desks on a local resale page. Old wooden desks, free if you help move them. No delivery. Floor unsafe in places. Serious people only. By morning, she had received 6 messages asking whether she would deliver, 2 asking if the building was haunted, and 1 offering to take everything for scrap if she paid $40. The last message came from someone named Marcus Boone. "I only need 1 desk. I can bring a pry bar, work gloves, and the apparently rare ability to read an entire listing." Saturday? Leah checked his profile. No inspirational quotes, no shirtless photographs, no visible axe collection. "Saturday works," she replied. "Bring boots." His answer arrived a minute later. "Steel toes. I'm serious people." Singular. Marcus Boone arrived at 9 on Saturday in a faded station wagon with a yellow catering magnet half peeled from the passenger door. Leah watched from the cottage porch as he parked beside her car, got out, and examined the schoolhouse. He was tall in a folded sort of way, as if years beneath low door frames had taught him to apologize for his height. His brown jacket had a missing cuff button. His steel-toed boots looked legitimate. He spotted Leah and raised a pry bar in greeting. "Serious person," he called. Singular. I brought coffee as a character reference. He lifted a cardboard carrier from the car roof. One cup had already leaked through the bottom. That character is unstable, Leah said. So am I before 10. He crossed the yard carefully, noticing the blackened steel drum and the heap of wet brush. You burning bodies? Poison ivy. Intentionally? Not at first. Marcus handed her the less damaged cup. Good. I hate meeting competent people. They notice things. Leah had expected someone louder. Most people on resale pages arrived either suspicious or aggressively friendly, as though collecting a free bookshelf formed a blood bond. Marcus simply drank his coffee and read the warning she had taped across the schoolhouse doorway. Soft floor, east wall. You wrote it twice, he said. The first sign fell down. Thought maybe there were 2 east walls. You can leave. I just got here. Inside, he stood still until his eyes adjusted. The desks remained piled against the west side, metal runners tangled together. Dust dulled their wooden tops. Several had inkwells. Others carried initials carved deeply enough to survive generations of sanding. Marcus ran his thumb over one. These are heavier than they look. That's what the last 3 people said before they stopped messaging. Which one can I have? Whichever one we can remove without bringing the wall with it. They started at the outside of the pile. The first desk was pinned beneath 2 others. Marcus studied the angles, set down his pry bar, and moved a broken chair before Leah could step backward into it. You done this before? She asked. Move furniture? Look disappointed in a building. I manage restaurants. That explains the disappointment. He smiled. We opened 4 locations. Everyone started as a room with bad electrical, and somebody saying the grease trap was probably fine. Was it? The grease trap is never fine. He removed his jacket and folded it over the lectern. His gray sweatshirt bore the name of an upscale restaurant Leah recognized from the city, though the logo had cracked with washing. Together they lifted the first desk enough for Marcus to wedge scrap wood beneath its runner. Leah pulled while he guided. Metal shrieked across the floor. Stop, he said. I've got it. Stop. She did, mostly because his voice had changed. A floorboard beneath her right boot bowed downward. A thin crack ran from one nail to the next. Step toward me, Marcus said. If I move, it'll break. If you don't, you'll eventually become part of the foundation. Leah shifted her weight. The board split with a dry snap. Her boot dropped through to the ankle. Marcus caught her beneath the arms and hauled her backward. They collided with the desk, which rolled 6 inches and stopped. For one breath, Leah was pressed against his chest, his chin above her hair. Then he released her and stepped away. You okay? Yes. You sure? I'm standing. That's not the complete medical standard. She pulled her boot free. Dirt covered the toe, but her ankle turned without pain. From the doorway came a slow clap. Evelyn stood outside holding a paper sack, 92% on the warehouse safety module. I didn't lean over the hole, Leah said, a triumph. Marcus looked between them. Friend of yours? No, they answered together. Evelyn entered, stepping around the weak board without looking down. She put the sack on the lectern beside Marcus's jacket. I'm Evelyn Shaw, Marcus Boone. What do you want? A desk. Why? He glanced at Leah. Is there an application? There should have been. I need something to work at. Doing what? I'm still deciding. Evelyn's expression suggested she considered indecision contagious. Take the one with the square inkwell. The frame is sound. That's the one I was looking at. No, you were looking at the one beside it. Marcus studied her. You're right, I frequently am. She unpacked dust masks, a box of heavy trash bags, and a small first aid kit. Leah picked up the kit. Is this because of the poison ivy? It's because I met you. For the next hour, Evelyn directed from the safest chair, while Leah and Marcus separated the desks. She knew which runners had been bolted to one another, and which wood split under pressure. When Leah asked how often the room's arrangement had changed, Evelyn replied, more than people, and refused to elaborate. Marcus earned his desk twice over. He repaired the loose handle on the front door, braced the worst floorboard with plywood from a boarded window, and showed Leah how to test surrounding boards without stabbing holes through them. You said you manage restaurants, Leah said. Were you also the maintenance department? At first, yes. Then we hired a maintenance department, and I became the person who told them we couldn't close during dinner. What happened to the restaurants? They continue to sell expensive potatoes without me. He said it lightly, but his hands stopped moving. Did you quit? I resigned. That sounds more adult. It was in an email sent at 3:12 in the morning. Evelyn made a small approving noise. Specific. Marcus looked over. I had been awake for 37 hours. Less specific judgment then. They carried his desk outside and set it beside the station wagon. Marcus did not load it immediately. Instead, he walked around the schoolhouse, looking up at the roof line. You need to cover that west slope before snow, he said. I've made calls and been ignored. I am apparently too small to fail. There's a building salvage place off Route 9. They sell partial rolls of roofing material. I bought tarps. I saw the constellations. Leah wiped dust from her face with her sleeve. Can you put roofing material over old shingles? You can put a hat on a sick horse. The question is what you expect the hat to accomplish. Evelyn stood. Coffee. It was not an invitation so much as a relocation order. The cottage kitchen table barely fit 3 adults and the blue platter. Leah moved the platter to the counter. Evelyn filled the kettle. Marcus ducked under the low beam between the kitchen and front room and looked around without the curiosity that made a person feel inspected. You live here? He asked Leah. As of 2 days ago. Cozy. The refrigerator has a feud with the bedroom lamp. Boundaries are important. Evelyn set down 3 mugs. Why do you need a desk if you don't know what you're doing? Marcus wrapped both hands around his coffee. I'm helping a friend with catering invoices. For money? For practice being useful. That doesn't pay rent. No. Leah recognized the way he said it. Not defensive. Worse, already agreed. What did you do at the restaurants? She asked. Scheduling, food costs, hiring, ordering, training, openings, closings, emergencies involving refrigeration. Explaining to owners why a full dining room can still lose money. You know bookkeeping. I know enough to terrify somebody starting a cafe. Evelyn sipped her coffee. People used to pay to learn that here. Marcus glanced toward the schoolhouse through the window. Leah changed the subject before Evelyn could start assigning futures to strangers. How much does the salvage place charge? Depends what they have. I can go with you Monday. I work Sunday night. So, Monday afternoon. You don't have a job? His expression stayed pleasant, but a door closed behind it. I have jobs, he said. They don't happen in a building with my name on a schedule. Leah understood too late that she had asked the question the way Grant would. Monday afternoon, she said. A truck rolled over the cattle guard at the gate. Grant parked behind Marcus's wagon, blocking it in. He got out wearing his store jacket, Mercer hardware stitched above the pocket. His eyes went first to the desk, then to Marcus, then to the cottage. I called you, he said to Leah. I was busy falling through a floor. His face changed instantly. You what? I'm fine. Where? The schoolhouse. Grant crossed the yard without greeting anyone. Inside, he crouched beside the broken board and pressed both hands against the surrounding floor. He knew enough not to put his weight on it. Their father had taught all 3 of them how to check porch rot with an awl, though Grant was the only one praised for remembering. This whole section needs to come up, he said when Leah joined him. You can't just patch it. I know, do you? Because you posted free furniture online and invited strangers into a condemned building. Marcus appeared in the doorway. Not condemned. Grant looked at him. Who are you? Marcus. That answer feels incomplete. He came for a desk, Leah said. Grant looked at the braced board, then the moved desks. You did this? We did. Do you carry insurance? Marcus rubbed his jaw. Not for free furniture. Grant turned on Leah. This is what I was talking about. If he gets hurt, you're responsible. I warned him. A handwritten sign isn't protection. It stopped him from eating the east wall. I'm serious. So am I. Grant dragged a hand through his hair. He looked tired, Leah noticed. There was white paint on his jacket sleeve and a fresh cut near his thumb. I brought you something, he said. From his truck, he removed a rolled blue tarp, still in its packaging, and a box of roof patch. He set them on the grass without ceremony. Leah stared at the store labels. What do you want? Nothing. Grant. They were damaged stock. The tarp packaging was not damaged. He avoided her eyes. You can't use it long term. It'll get you through a few storms. Evelyn watched from the cottage porch. Marcus became deeply interested in tying the desk to his roof rack. Leah touched the box of roof patch. Thank you. Grant nodded once. Then he looked at the blue platter visible through the cottage window. Dana says you took that. It belonged here. Based on permanent marker, based on Mom writing the school's name on it. You need to bring it back until we finish inventory. It's a platter, not a controlled substance. That's not the point. What is the point? He lowered his voice. You don't get to take things just because you find a story that makes them yours. Leah felt the gratitude leave her as quickly as it had come. Funny, she said. That's exactly how I got this property. Grant's face closed. He returned to his truck without another word. As he backed out, his tires flattened the edge of the brush pile Leah had spent hours making. Marcus tightened the last rope over his desk. He always bring gifts before insulting you? He asked. Sometimes he skips the gift. Evelyn came down the steps. The tarp is useful. I know, Leah said. So is anger, until you mistake it for instructions. Leah carried the tarp into the schoolhouse. On the legal pad, beneath the torn page where she had crossed out cell, she started another list. Stop water. Make one safe room. Decide after winter. Marcus read it over her shoulder. That's almost a plan, he said. Almost? You need costs. She handed him the pencil. You're the terrifying bookkeeping expert. He looked at the pencil, then at the leaking roof. I charge one desk per consultation. You already have the desk. Then I guess you owe me a room. Leah thought he was joking. Marcus pointed toward the blackboard, the least damaged corner, and the rows of desks they had left stacked against the wall. 2 evenings a week, he said. If we make it safe, I could teach restaurant numbers to people who need them. Nothing fancy. Evelyn's head lifted. Leah looked around at the damp plaster and broken floor. First we stop the water, she said. Marcus nodded. See? Instructions. The pencil stayed in Marcus's hand until coffee gave way to cold daylight. He divided the legal pad page into 3 columns. Need, cost, and can wait. Leah objected to the 3rd column. If the floor collapses, it won't care that we postponed it. The floor near the east wall is a problem. The ugly paint is not. I didn't put paint on the list. You looked at it with ambition. Evelyn sat at a desk near the doorway, sorting the contents of the first aid kit she had bought. She does that. Marcus wrote roof cover beneath need. Not roof repair? Leah asked. Roof repair requires somebody who understands roofs. I've watched 4 videos. Somebody else. He estimated materials for temporary covering, replacement boards for a safe walkway, screws, dust masks, and a moisture meter. Even using salvage lumber, the first total was $580. Leah checked it twice, hoping arithmetic had become emotional rather than fixed. We don't need a moisture meter, Marcus crossed it out, or new dust masks. Evelyn brought some. I brought 6, Evelyn said. Your lungs are not reusable. Marcus changed new box to later. By the time they finished, need had shrunk to $362 if nothing unexpected happened. The phrase felt like an insult written in invisible ink. What do you have? Marcus asked. $87. He stopped. Until Friday, Leah added. That still isn't $362. I know how numbers work. So did every restaurant owner who called payroll a surprise. Leah took the pencil from him. I can pick up shifts. You also have to sleep. I've tried it. Expensive habit. Evelyn pushed herself upright. Use the new tarp Grant brought. Replace only what is unsafe to walk on. The rest waits. The salvage place may have cheaper roofing, Marcus said. I'll meet you there Monday at 2. Leah circled the total and tore off the page. She put it in her coat pocket, forgetting the estate sale flyer already there. On Monday at 1:43, Marcus texted that a catering company needed him for an emergency corporate lunch. Paid emergency, he wrote. I have to take it. Can we go tomorrow? Leah was already driving toward Route 9, with the heater rattling and the legal pad page on the passenger seat. She had slept less than 3 hours after her shift and turned left twice only because the wheel bearing had stopped grinding. That silence worried her more than the noise. I'll send pictures, she replied. The salvage yard occupied an old feed warehouse behind a chain-link fence. Inside, stacks of doors leaned against brick walls, toilets sat in rows like a silent audience, and handwritten signs warned customers not to climb anything. A man in a canvas vest led Leah past metal flashing and partial shingle bundles to a black roll wrapped in cloudy plastic. Waterproof, he said. Peel and stick. Can it go over old shingles? It can go over a clean roof deck. Leah heard roof and waterproof. The roll cost $146, less than half the material Marcus had estimated. She pictured covering the west slope before the next rain. She pictured crossing an item off the list in thick black ink. Will one be enough? For what? She showed him a photograph of the schoolhouse roof. He pinched the screen to enlarge it. That's steep, but will one cover it? Depends what you're doing. Stopping water. He scratched his beard. You'll need the right surface preparation. What does that mean? Clean, dry deck. Correct primer. Flashing around penetrations. She looked at the roll again. But the material itself is waterproof. Sure. Leah paid before caution could become another thing she could not afford. It took the last of her grocery money and 15 borrowed dollars from the 20 she kept hidden in her phone case. 2-yard employees tied the roll to the car roof with orange twine. On the drive back, it thudded each time she hit a bump, like a giant finger tapping above her head. Evelyn was splitting kindling behind the cottage when Leah arrived. What is that? She asked. Roofing. Which kind? Waterproof. I was afraid of that. They could not lift the roll together. Leah cut the twine, and it slid down the windshield, bounced off the hood, and landed in the grass with enough force to flatten Evelyn's wood basket. Evelyn stared at the splintered basket. I'll replace it, Leah said. With what money? You don't have to make every disaster educational. I'm not. Some are recreational. Marcus arrived after dark, smelling of coffee and roasted meat. He carried 2 aluminum trays covered in foil. Leftover potatoes, he announced. Corporate people fear carbohydrates. Then he saw the black roll beside the porch. His face changed. What? Leah said. He crouched and pulled back the torn plastic. This is underlayment. It's roofing material. It goes under roofing material. The man said it was waterproof. So is a shower curtain. He said it could go on a roof. It can, on a clean roof deck. Under shingles or metal. Leah crossed her arms. You didn't come. Marcus stood. I had paid work, I know. I asked you to wait. You asked if we could go tomorrow. Which meant wait. No, it meant you could go tomorrow. Evelyn took the potato trays from him. I will be inside, eating both of these. The cottage door closed. Marcus rubbed both hands over his face. Did you send me pictures? You were working. That has never stopped anyone from sending me pictures. I handled it, clearly. The word landed harder than he intended. He knew it immediately, but Leah had already turned away. I don't need you managing this, she said. I'm not managing it. You made a budget. You told me where to shop. You canceled. I picked up work because I also need money, Leah, and I spent mine on something useless. Yes. She faced him. Thank you. I had missed that detail. He looked toward the schoolhouse. In the dark, the roofline cut a crooked shape against the clouds. Can you return it? He asked. They don't take cut packaging. You haven't cut the roll. The plastic tore when it crushed Evelyn's basket. Of course it did. Leah expected him to laugh. Instead, he crouched again and checked the label. It isn't useless, he said. When we replace the roof properly, we'll need underlayment. When is that? Spring? Next year? Probably. So I bought the future groceries. He sat back on his heels. Yeah. The sympathy in his voice was intolerable. Leah went into the cottage and took one of the potato trays from Evelyn. She ate standing at the sink, using a serving spoon because she had not unpacked her forks. Marcus did not follow. 10 minutes later, she looked through the window. He was unrolling Grant's blue tarp in the schoolyard, weighing the corners with stones. What is he doing? She asked. He could come inside. So could you go outside? I live here. Evelyn opened the other tray. Then enjoy your advantage. Leah found Marcus measuring rope beside the schoolhouse. I'm sorry, she said. He kept working. Which part? The part where I acted like your job was less important because it was temporary. He looked up. Leah picked at the loose tape on the rope package. People do that to me, I guessed. I still did it. Also guessed. I'm trying to apologize. You're doing great. She almost left him there. Marcus stood and handed her one end of the rope. I'm sorry I said clearly. That was fast. I've managed kitchens. Efficient apologies prevent knife incidents. They covered the damaged portion from ladders without climbing onto the wet roof. Marcus threw weighted lines across the ridge, and Leah hauled the tarp upward from the opposite side. It took 11 attempts. Twice the tarp slid back down and wrapped around Marcus's head. The third time, Leah laughed so hard she lost her grip. "You enjoying this?" his muffled voice called. "Recreational disaster." On the final attempt, the tarp cleared the ridge. They secured it to the porch posts and old iron rings near the foundation. It was not pretty. It did not cover every questionable shingle, but the worst section disappeared beneath new blue plastic that shone in the moonlight. Marcus stepped back. "That buys time." "How much?" "Ask the wind." He left after 10, taking his desk and half the potatoes. Before driving away, he wrote the salvage yard's return number on the roofing roll and circled the label that said underlayment in letters large enough to be offensive. Leah called the yard the next morning. The manager agreed to give her store credit, minus 20%, because the wrapper had torn. "You have to bring it back," he said. "My car can't carry it safely." "How'd you get it home?" Optimism. He did not find that persuasive. She took 2 extra warehouse shifts. Rick approved them, while reminding her that fatigue caused incidents. On the second night, she mislabeled a returned coffee maker and sent it toward sporting goods. "Take 15, he said. "I need the hours." You need depth perception. In the break room, Leah opened her banking app. The extra shifts would cover a wheel bearing repair or basic groceries and building materials, not both. She transferred $50 toward the car and stared at the remaining balance. Dana had sent another text. "Please call me. I found a contractor who might look at the cottage." Leah put the phone face down. When she returned to Bellwether after dawn, the wind had changed. Rain struck from the west, hard enough to hiss against the windows. The schoolhouse tarp snapped and strained, but held. Leah stood beneath the repaired section and listened. No tapping bucket. No new dark stains spreading down the wall. For the first time since she signed the deed, something was not getting worse. She crossed stopwater off the list. A drop landed on her forehead, then another. She looked up. Water crept along a ceiling seam 6 feet beyond the tarp and gathered at a crack. "Fine," she told the building. "Mostly stop water." She moved the bucket. At the cottage, she found the back room leak running exactly where Evelyn had warned her it would. Water had overflowed the metal bucket and soaked one corner of Margaret's blanket. Leah dropped to her knees, dragged the mattress away, and pressed towels into the puddle. The bedroom lamp flickered. The refrigerator clicked off. Her phone rang from the kitchen. Grant. She let it ring. A second call followed from Dana. Leah ignored that one too. Then Marcus's name appeared. She answered with a wet towel in her hand. "Before you say anything," she said, "the tarp works. I was going to ask if you're dry." "No." "Schoolhouse or cottage?" "Yes." He was quiet for a second. "I have 2 hours before another catering job. You don't have to come. I know." That answer warmed her more than any promise would have. Leah looked through the rain toward the schoolhouse. One corner of the tarp lifted, slapped down, and held. "Bring coffee," she said. "Stable or character building, whichever one floats." Marcus arrived with coffee, a shop vacuum, and a roll of contractor bags. "You own emergency equipment," Leah said as he stepped onto the porch. "I used to own 5 restaurants worth. This is what survived the division of assets. What happened to the rest?" "Company property. You said you opened 4 locations. 1 closed." He carried the vacuum inside before she could ask which one or why. The back room smelled of wet wool and old plaster. Leah had moved the mattress into the front room, where it blocked the fireplace. Towels lay in dark heaps around the metal bucket. Marcus examined the ceiling stain. "This has been leaking a while. Evelyn knows." That sounds like an answer to a different question. She put a bucket under it. "So the system worked until you moved the bucket." "I didn't move it. I overfilled it." "Ah." System exceeded capacity. Leah handed him a towel. "You can go to your catering job." "I have 1 hour and 43 minutes. You said 2 hours. I included driving because I'm honest." Together, they pulled up the small rug and hung it over 2 kitchen chairs. Marcus found a loose pane in the back window, where rain had blown inward, pressed a towel along the sill, and temporarily sealed the gap with plastic from one of the contractor bags. The power flickered twice. When the refrigerator went silent, Leah opened its door and took out the milk. "No sense letting it suffer alone," she said. Marcus drank directly from the carton before she could find glasses. "That's disgusting. You were going to pour it out." "I was going to drink it with standards." He handed it to her. She drank from the same side, without thinking, then noticed him noticing. Neither said anything. Rain hammered the porch roof. They sat on the floor with their backs against the sofa because every other surface held wet belongings. Marcus's coffee had gone lukewarm. Leah's remained untouched beside her knee. "You never answered me," he said. "About what?" "What you're doing with the schoolhouse." "Stopping water. That's one item. Making one safe room. Second item, deciding after winter. That's not doing, that's delaying doing. You and Evelyn should start a club. She'd expel me." Leah picked at a frayed edge of Margaret's blanket. "My mother wanted to reopen it. She took adult reading classes there before she married my father. Years later, she bought the property with him and told people she'd open it again. Then she didn't." "Did she tell you that?" "Evelyn did. And now you feel like you're supposed to finish it." "No." The answer came too quickly. Marcus rubbed plaster dust from his thumb. "Spite, then. Spite is underrated. It has excellent startup energy, terrible operating hours." "I don't know what I want," Leah said. "Everyone keeps asking like there's one correct thing hidden behind my forehead. I don't need the correct thing. You asked twice. I need to know whether I'm bracing a room for 6 months or helping you build something. That sounds suspiciously like a correct thing. It's a different materials list." She looked toward the window. Beyond the plastic, the schoolhouse was barely visible through rain. The blue tarp lifted at one corner and snapped back into place. "What did you think you were building?" she asked. "At the restaurants." Marcus leaned his head against the sofa. "The first one?" "A place where people would come back because somebody remembered how they took their coffee. By the fourth, I was building weekly reports about labor percentages. What happened to the one that closed? Wrong location, bad lease. Owner who thought enthusiasm could change traffic patterns. Did you tell him? Every month. And he blamed you. I blamed me first. Saved him the effort." Leah understood that too well. Marcus checked the time and stood. "I have to go make tiny sandwiches for insurance executives. They can't make their own? If they did, I'd lose one of my jobs." At the door, he turned back. "Don't move the bucket. I've learned." "No, you've been informed. Learning requires evidence." She threw a damp sock at him. He caught it against his chest, looked offended, and placed it neatly on the porch rail. The storm passed by afternoon. It left branches across the schoolyard, 3 new puddles inside the schoolhouse, and the tarp intact. Leah photographed the dry section beneath it and sent the picture to Grant. It worked. He replied 2 hours later. "Good. Don't trust it in snow." It was the nearest they had come to peace. Marcus returned Tuesday with his station wagon, and together they loaded the roofing underlayment. It bent the roof rack low enough to make both of them nervous. At the salvage yard, Leah received $117 in store credit. She spent it on plywood scraps, exterior screws, a bundle of mismatched trim, and 2 used sawhorses. Marcus talked her out of a bargain bucket of roof adhesive that had frozen solid. "It says flexible," she argued. "It's shaped like a bucket." Back at Bellwether, they built a temporary walkway across the weak section and open space near the blackboard. Marcus insisted on measuring before cutting. Leah discovered she disliked measuring because the numbers kept changing between the top and bottom of every crooked wall. "The building isn't square," she said. "The building is 90 years old. It has opinions." Evelyn arrived with a broom and swept around them while criticizing the height of the brace. She knew where a box of original floorboards had been stored in the outbuilding, though half had warped beyond use. By dusk, one corner of the schoolroom was safe enough for 3 desks and a folding table. It was not a classroom, it was a dry patch with aspirations. Marcus wrote food costs on the blackboard. Leah added eventually beneath it. Evelyn erased her word. On Thursday, Leah posted again on the local page. "Looking to trade labor, not money I don't have. Need help repairing old wood windows, patching plaster, clearing brush, and making one schoolroom safe. In exchange, workspace, future class use, storage by agreement, coffee of inconsistent quality. Adults who know what they're doing, preferred. Adults honest about what they don't know, also accepted." The first reply asked whether she could pay in antique fixtures. The second came from Tessa Green. "I can repair sash windows. I don't want antiques. I need somewhere quiet to study 3 afternoons a week. Is there heat?" Leah looked at the cold schoolhouse stove, which Evelyn had warned her not to light until the chimney was inspected. "In the cottage," she replied. Schoolhouse, eventually. Tessa arrived the next afternoon in a dark green pickup with a metal toolbox strapped against the cab. She was 47, compact, and wore her silver-streaked hair clipped close to her head. A faded Union sticker remained on her rear window, scratched down the middle. She did not bring coffee. "Show me the windows," she said. Leah led her through the schoolhouse. Tessa inspected each frame without touching it, then returned to the west wall and pressed one thumbnail into the lower sash. Rot at the corners. Glazing's gone. Ropes are probably broken. "Can you fix them?" "Yes." "How many?" "How much quiet do I get?" Leah glanced at the cottage. "What are you studying?" "Industrial maintenance certification." "Aren't you already good at that?" "I'm good at machining. The plant doesn't exist anymore." She said it with practiced flatness. "You worked at Kenley?" Marcus asked from behind them. Tessa turned. 18 years. My father worked shipping there." "Name?" "Ray Boone." Her expression shifted. "Ray with the thermos stickers? That was him? He stole my parking space. He said it was unassigned. He was a liar." Marcus nodded. "Also him." Tessa looked back at the windows. 2 repaired sashes for 6 weeks of afternoons. Table, outlet, bathroom, and nobody talking to me. "The outlet may be a problem," Leah said. "I brought an extension cord. The talking?" Tessa looked at Marcus, then at Evelyn, who had appeared in the doorway carrying a pie. "That may be the problem," Leah admitted. Evelyn ignored this. "You're Frank Green's niece, Tessa Green, and, yes, your uncle took bookkeeping here. He said he learned it in the Marines. Your uncle said many things after beer." Tessa accepted that without visible surprise. The negotiation produced 3 repaired windows in exchange for 8 weeks at the cottage kitchen table, weekday afternoons only. Leah wrote the terms on a fresh sheet of paper and taped it beside the blackboard. Marcus read it. "You need to assign value to the hours. Why? No money is changing hands, so you know whether the exchange is fair." Tessa opened her toolbox. 8 weeks of quiet is worth more than 3 windows to me." 3 windows are worth more than quiet to Leah," Marcus said. "That doesn't mean we shouldn't track it." Evelyn cut the pie. "What kind?" Leah asked. "Apple." "From Dana's orchard? From a grocery store?" "Her trees are tired." Marcus drew a grid on the blackboard, names down one side, hours across the top. Evelyn objected to being included. "I am not an employee." "Nobody is," Leah said. "Then why are you making attendance marks?" "It's an exchange record. It resembles a detention chart." Tessa removed the first strip of brittle window putty with a tool as delicate as a dentist's pick. "Put me down for 2 hours today." Marcus wrote 2 beside her name. Evelyn ate pie while glaring at the board. After 10 minutes, she stood, took the chalk, and added 1 hour beside her own name. "For pie," she said. "Ingredients and labor. You bought it," Leah said. I stood in line. By the end of the afternoon, the first sash lay on the folding table, stripped to bare wood. Tessa had labeled every piece of hardware in small paper cups. Marcus repaired a desk runner. Evelyn washed the old glass in the cottage sink, muttering that modern people wasted vinegar. Leah moved between them, carrying tools, answering questions she could answer, and admitting when she could not. At sunset, Tessa fitted the glass back into the repaired frame. The pane was old enough to bend the view slightly. Trees wavered beyond it, as though seen through clear water. They raised the sash. It stayed. No rattle, no gap. No plastic bag taped over the corners. Cold evening light entered the room and stretched across the floor to the blackboard. Tessa packed her tools. 1. Marcus marked 3.5 hours beside her name. Evelyn corrected it to 4. Leah stood in the clean rectangle of light after the others had gone. The room was still damp, unfinished, and colder than the cottage refrigerator. One safe corner did not make a functioning schoolhouse, but the window held. She added a line beneath the chart. What this place gives back. Then she drew 4 empty boxes and left the chalk on the ledge. The first box was filled the next afternoon. Tessa had been studying at the cottage table for almost 3 hours without moving anything except her pencil. Leah came in from hauling rotten trim and found the words, "No television through the wall," written beneath what this place gives back. "You're supposed to put something meaningful," Leah said. "That is meaningful. You could study at the library. The library closes early on Fridays, and a man named Dennis eats soup beside me. Soup is allowed. He slurps alphabetically. Leah looked at the stack of diagrams beside Tessa's elbow. Bearings, electrical symbols, pneumatic systems. Pages dense enough to make the schoolhouse deed seem conversational. When is your test? January. You have plenty of time. Tessa's pencil stopped. That's what people say when they aren't taking it. Leah left the box as written. Marcus filled another on Saturday, a place to be bad at something again. He had come to test the blackboard before trying his first food cost lesson. He wrote 12 pounds of potatoes at 69 cents per pound, then stood staring at the calculation as though he had personally misplaced arithmetic. You manage restaurants? Leah asked. I had software. So your class is about downloading software. My class is about knowing when software is lying. Evelyn, seated beside the stove in 3 layers of wool, said, The answer is $8.28. Marcus turned. I was allowing the student to participate. There is no student. There will be. Then begin practicing honesty. He corrected his numbers and filled the second box while Evelyn watched. What are you bad at? Leah asked. This. Teaching? Starting over where people can see. The room went quiet enough for Tessa's hammer taps to carry from the west window. Leah looked away first. She swept chalk dust from the ledge into her palm and dumped it in the trash. You're allowed to be bad here, she said. Apparently that's the business model. Is it a business? No. Good. I quit one of those. The chart grew slowly. Tessa logged window hours and study hours. Marcus tracked repairs, class preparation, and coffee, though Evelyn kept crossing out coffee as personal consumption. Evelyn recorded cleaning supplies down to the teaspoon of vinegar. Leah listed her own hours once, saw that they outnumbered everyone else's combined, and erased them. Marcus noticed. If you don't track your work, the system isn't honest. It's my building. That's why your hours matter. I'm not trading with myself. You are if the building is supposed to give something back. She resented the phrase in his mouth. It had felt true when she wrote it, and sentimental when he said it. I'll add them later. He handed her the chalk. Leah put down 6 hours for that day, though she had started before sunrise. At the warehouse, her extra shifts blurred into one long belt of damaged objects. She stopped remembering whether she had slept before work or planned to sleep after it. Rick began assigning her to stations where errors were easier to reverse. You're demoting me to socks, she said. I'm preserving your relationship with appliances. I mislabeled one coffee maker. You put a return sticker over a safety recall. It was already unplugged. So is my uncle. Still has paperwork. Rick lifted a plastic bin of mismatched socks onto her station. You keep asking for hours, he said. I give you hours. Then you come in looking like an unsolved homicide. I'm fine. You people love that word. What people? Tired people. Leah sorted socks until the patterns moved when she looked away. On payday, the repair shop quoted $380 for the wheel bearing. The mechanic showed her how the tire shifted when he pulled it. You're lucky it hasn't seized. Can you do just the bearing? That is just the bearing. She authorized the repair and watched nearly every dollar from her extra shifts disappear. Marcus drove her from the shop to Bellwether. His station wagon smelled of sawdust and the peppermint gum he chewed instead of smoking. The old catering magnet flapped against the door at highway speed. You could take it off, Leah said. I like people assuming I have food. Do you? No. Then it's cruel. He glanced at her. You really are tired. At the cottage, he made her sleep while he and Tessa installed the second repaired sash. Leah objected from the sofa until Evelyn covered her face with a blanket. She woke to voices outside. Dana stood in the schoolyard, wearing a camel coat and boots entirely unsuited to mud. Beside her was a woman with a camera bag and a wide-brimmed hat. Marcus had positioned himself between them and the open schoolhouse door without making the stance obvious. Leah pushed past the blanket and went outside in her socks. Why are you here? Dana turned. I called. I was asleep. I can see that. The woman with the camera offered a careful smile. Hi, I'm Bree. Leah looked at Dana. My photographer, Dana said. For the orchard. Why is your orchard photographer at my schoolhouse? I wanted to show her the textures. Marcus coughed into his fist. It sounded suspiciously like a laugh. What textures? Leah asked. The old wood, the windows, the blackboard. We're developing the spring campaign, and there's a whole story here about heritage restoration. We? The orchard and Bellwether, our family preserving local history. Leah became aware of the mud soaking through her socks. You haven't preserved anything here. Dana's cheeks colored. I didn't say I had personally. You said our family. It is our family. It's my property. Bree adjusted the strap on her camera bag. I can wait in the car. No, Dana said too quickly. This is a misunderstanding. Evelyn appeared in the schoolhouse doorway. Usually those require two people. Dana stared at her. Are you Evelyn? You're Dana. They looked at each other with matching reserve. Leah had never noticed how much Dana resembled Margaret when she felt judged. Chin lifted, shoulders settled, hands very still. Dana approached the steps. You knew my mother? Yes. She came here? Yes. For reading classes? Evelyn's eyes moved to Leah. Dana caught it. So Leah gets permission? I didn't give her permission, she asked repeatedly until silence became more exhausting than answering. That sounds like her. The sisters shared the smallest smile. It did not survive. Dana looked past Evelyn into the room. The repaired windows admitted clean bands of afternoon light. Marcus's food cost problems remained on the blackboard. Tessa's label sash parts occupied the folding table. On the wall, names and hours formed the beginning of a system. Dana stepped inside without asking. Oh, she said. It was not admiration exactly. It was recognition. The building had crossed some invisible line between ruin and possibility, and Dana knew enough about presentation to see it. She took out her phone. Leah put a hand over the camera lens. No, I just want a picture. No. Why are you being like this? You brought a professional photographer without asking. I thought you'd be pleased. By what? That people can see what you're doing. Leah lowered the phone. They'll see what the orchard is doing. I read your website. Dana went still. Bree retreated toward the door. Marcus held it open for her with an apologetic nod. Dana turned to Evelyn. Was Mom involved in all of this? All of what? The supper, the classes, buying the building? Yes. Why didn't she tell me? Evelyn's expression softened by a degree. She didn't tell anyone. She told you. She was a different person with me. Dana absorbed that. Leah knew the exact pain of it and still felt a mean flicker of satisfaction that her sister had to carry some. Then Dana saw the blue platter propped above the lectern. You displayed it? It was used here, Leah said. It was used in our house for years. It can have more than one history. And only you get to decide which one matters. The question struck close enough to anger her. You tagged it before Mom's sheets were cold. Dana flinched. Evelyn closed her eyes. Leah wished the sentence back, but Dana had already pulled herself upright. You think because you stayed with her, every memory belongs to you, she said quietly. I know I wasn't there every day. I know that. But you don't get to turn that into proof that I didn't love her. I didn't say you didn't. You never have to. Dana walked out. Bree followed without taking a photograph. At the edge of the yard, Dana turned toward the schoolhouse. For what it's worth, the windows look beautiful, she said. Then she left. Leah remained beside the lectern, staring at the platter. That went well, Marcus said after the cars disappeared. Go ahead, tell me I'm using anger as instructions. No. Evelyn, the older woman picked up a rag and began wiping the windowsill. Your sister came to take something. You stopped her. Then you found a sharper knife than necessary. She brought a photographer. I was present. Leah removed the platter from its shelf. Maybe she should have it. That would not be an apology, Evelyn said. It would be surrender performed as generosity. You have a phrase for everything. I've had time. Leah carried the platter back to the cottage and put it in a cabinet where nobody could build a story around it. 2 days later, Marcus held his first trial class. 3 adults came, the owner of a food truck who kept losing money despite selling out, a church cook considering a catering business, and a recently divorced bartender who wanted to understand whether buying his employer's struggling pub was bravery or grief. Marcus wore a clean shirt and rearranged the desks 5 times. You're sweating, Leah told him. The stove is hot. The stove isn't lit. He looked toward the door. I can still cancel. Leah planted herself in front of it. You promised them terrifying knowledge. What if I'm bad? Then you're on brand. The lesson began awkwardly. Marcus spoke too fast, erased numbers before anyone copied them, and used the phrase contribution margin until the food truck owner threatened to leave. Then the bartender asked why a full room could still lose money. Marcus stopped performing. He drew a simple plate on the blackboard. Around it, he wrote food, labor, waste, rent, time. He asked each person what one serving truly cost them. The room changed. Questions replaced politeness. The church cook admitted she had never charged for her own hours. The food truck owner discovered she lost money on her most popular sandwich. Leah listened from the cottage porch with her coat wrapped tight. Light glowed through all 3 repaired windows. When the adults left, each put something in the coffee tin Marcus had labeled, "Pay what the math was worth." The total was $28, a hardware store coupon, and a promise of lunch. Marcus brought the tin outside. "Do I put this on the chart?" he asked. Leah looked through the window at the desks no longer stacked against a wall. "In the 3rd box," she said. He handed her the chalk. She wrote, "People came back." For the 4th box, Marcus wrote, "So did we." Leah stared at Marcus's handwriting. "You put us in a box. It was empty." "That doesn't mean you fill it with whatever you want." He leaned the chalk against the ledge. "It comes off." She could not explain why that made it worse. Inside the coffee tin, the $28 looked both ridiculous and substantial. Marcus counted it twice, wrote the amount on the exchange chart, and placed the hardware coupon beneath the bills. "What do we do with it?" he asked. "Buy screws." "We have screws. Not enough." "How many screws does emotional recovery require? Exterior or interior?" Marcus smiled. "There she is." He locked the schoolhouse door before leaving. Leah noticed because she had been locking it herself, testing the handle twice every night. He did it without claiming the task, then stood on the cottage porch with his keys in one hand. "Food truck Nina wants another class next week," he said. "Are you ready?" "No." "Good." His eyes moved toward her mouth and away. Leah felt the glance like a touch. For a second, neither of them stepped back. Then Evelyn called from inside the cottage. "If you intend to stand there all night, bring in firewood." Marcus carried in 2 armloads and left. The coffee tin bought screws, dust filters, and a new wood basket for Evelyn. Nina brought lunch from her food truck and enrolled 2 more restaurant workers. The church cook returned with a notebook full of prices and the alarming discovery that she had been valuing her own labor at 11 cents an hour. Word moved through Bellwether in the ordinary way. One person told another at a loading dock, over a counter, or in line for coffee. People did not call it a school. They called it the old schoolhouse, with emphasis on old, as though warning each other not to expect matching chairs. Arthur Bell came on the 2nd Saturday carrying a leather briefcase and a portable calculator. He was 68, recently widowed, and had spent 40 years preparing tax returns in an office above a pharmacy. Evelyn introduced him as someone who had once believed 3/8 was larger than 1/2. "I was nervous," Arthur said. "You were 32, Evelyn replied. "Adults can be nervous." "I know. That was the point." Arthur offered to review the exchange chart because, in his words, it looked like a poker game recorded by poets. He reorganized the hours, separated cash from in-kind contributions, and refused payment beyond coffee and a dry place to spend Saturday mornings. Leah watched him create order from Marcus's chalk marks. "You don't have to keep doing this," she told him. Arthur pressed a calculator button. "My wife used to complain that retirement left me underfoot. Now, there is no one at home to complain." He said it matter-of-factly. Leah heard the space around it. "Saturday mornings," she said, "until tax season. Coffee? Not what you've been serving." Arthur brought his own the following week, and an extra cup for Leah without mentioning her previous failure. Snow came in thin, indecisive flurries. The blue tarp stiffened but held. Tessa installed the 3rd repaired window and began studying in the schoolhouse when Marcus lit 2 approved electric heaters on separate circuits. Evelyn objected to the extension cords. Tessa taped them down so aggressively that removing them would require excavation. Leah slept in pieces between warehouse shifts and repair days. She learned to recognize the cottage by sound, the pump thumping awake, the stove ticking, Tessa turning pages, Evelyn scolding the kettle for taking too long. The schoolhouse acquired sounds of its own, chairs scraping, chalk knocking against the ledge, adults laughing when they got an answer wrong and trying again because no one had changed the subject to spare them. The property tax notice arrived on a Tuesday. Leah opened it at the cottage table with Arthur present, which felt like receiving bad medical news beside a surgeon. The amount due in March was $946. That's for both buildings? She asked. And the land? Can the land pay it? Arthur adjusted his glasses. I know. Humor is a trauma response. Humor is not accepted by the county treasurer. She looked toward the schoolhouse. The coffee tin held $71 after expenses. Her bank account held enough for 2 weeks if her car did not develop a second opinion. Arthur folded the notice. You have time. Tessa hates that sentence. Time is still measurable. At work that night, Rick posted the January schedule. Leah's name appeared 4 fewer times than she expected. She found him near receiving, checking a damaged pallet. You cut my shifts. The holiday volume ends. You gave Melody 5. Melody has seniority. By 2 months. Seniority is often a narrow victory. I need those hours. Rick rested the clipboard against his stomach. You need a schedule you can stay conscious through. I haven't missed a shift. You almost fell asleep standing up Tuesday. I was reading a label, with your eyes closed. Leah looked toward the conveyor. Put me on call. I already did. It was meant as help. She thanked him as though it felt like help. The next afternoon, 3 unfamiliar vehicles were parked outside Mercer Hardware when Leah stopped for stove rope. Through the front window, she saw Nina from the food truck speaking to a cashier. A flyer for Marcus's class lay on the counter. Grant came out of the paint aisle carrying a case of caulk. What's going on at Bellwether? He asked. Hello, Grant. People keep asking if we donate supplies. Do you? No, because nobody asked me. You sound disappointed. I sound blindsided. Nina saw Leah and waved, Grant noticed. She said, you have 18 people on some exchange list. 14. Arthur counted 2, twice. Who's Arthur? An accountant. Grant's eyebrows rose. You have an accountant? He has coffee. What are you doing out there? Leah picked up a package of stove rope and read the price. Mercer Hardware charged $4 more than the place near the warehouse, but her car was already here. Keeping busy, she said. Grant set the caulk down. Dana showed me pictures. She wasn't supposed to take any. She took one from the yard. Of course she had. Grant lowered his voice. It looks good. The praise was reluctant enough to be trustworthy. One corner looks good, Leah said. Still, you've done more than I thought. She waited for the rest. He looked toward the register, where Nina was explaining the exchange chart to an employee. This could be useful for the store. There it is. What? The part where my work becomes a family resource. You need materials. I sell materials. At retail. I could create an account. Cost pricing on basics. Damage stock free when we have it. We could promote classes here and send people your way. For what? Why does everything have to be a trap? Because you put bait in it. His mouth tightened. Mercer Hardware supports local projects. You put our name on the flyers and a sign at the property. We call it the Mercer Community Workshop. It already has a name. What name? Leah realized it did not. The old Schoolhouse, she said. That's not a name. It's more accurate than Mercer Community Workshop. Our parents bought the property and left it closed. You think I'm trying to steal something from you. I think you want the finished sentence without writing any of the words. Grant glanced toward Nina. You want me to apologize because customers like what you're doing? I want you not to treat it like a department you forgot to inventory. It was my tarp. The sentence escaped him. His face changed as soon as he heard it. Leah set the stove rope back on the shelf. Keep the account, she said. She bought the rope elsewhere. That evening, Grant's offer appeared smaller on the blackboard than it had sounded in the store. Cost materials, damaged stock, promotion. In return, she wrote, name, control, story. Marcus stood beside her, arms folded. You added question marks, he said. I'm trying to be fair. Are you? No. Tessa continued studying at the back table. Cost pricing is useful. Thank you, Commerce. You asked aloud. I didn't. You wrote it 8 inches high. Arthur tapped the tax notice beside the coffee tin. $946 is also useful to remember. Evelyn sat by the heater, winding stove rope around one hand. Grant always did prefer a sign to a conversation. Leah turned. Did Mom ask him to help here? Once, and? He was 24 and working 60 hours a week because your father had surgery. The answer refused to make Grant simple. What did he say? Leah asked. That he would look at the roof in spring. Leah glanced upward. Spring came. So did another one, Evelyn said. Marcus took the chalk and drew a line between Grant's offer and Leah's concerns. You can set terms, he said. He won't agree, then he won't. He's my brother. He doesn't hear terms from me. He hears a younger person making noise. Make expensive noise. Arthur almost smiled. Leah erased Mercer Community Workshop from the corner of the board. The next day, Grant arrived with a pickup full of damaged stock lumber. He did not bring a sign. Leah met him in the schoolyard. What are you doing? Making expensive noise. He lowered the tailgate. Most boards were straight despite split ends and cosmetic stains. Cost? She asked. Nothing. They can't be sold as new. Terms, no store name, no promotion, no ownership. Put the donation on Arthur's chart if that makes you feel better. It does. Grant looked toward the schoolhouse. Through the repaired windows, Tessa sat with her study pages. Marcus arranged desks for class, and Evelyn argued with Arthur about whether pie counted as overhead. You really have people here, he said. Adults often travel without supervision. He ignored the joke. Mom would have liked this. The certainty irritated Leah. You didn't know about her classes, no? Then don't tell me what she would have liked. Grant rested both hands on the tailgate. You don't own the parts of her we missed. The echo of Dana's accusations silenced her. I know, Leah said. No, you don't. He began unloading boards alone. Leah lifted the other end of the first stack. Grant let her, though he adjusted his grip as if the weight still belonged to him. They carried lumber into the schoolhouse without speaking. On the third trip, he paused beneath the exchange chart. His eyes moved over the names, hours, cash, and 4 filled boxes. What does it give back to you? He asked. Leah looked at the question she had made everyone else answer. I don't know yet. Grant nodded as though that was the first thing she had said all day that he believed. Before leaving, he placed the new TARP's receipt in Arthur's folder so the contribution could be counted properly. There was no apology attached. It was, Leah thought, possibly the first thing Grant had ever given her without instructions. Grant's lumber became part of the west floor. Tessa cut away the split ends with an accuracy that made Marcus stop offering suggestions. Leah pulled old nails and stacked them in a coffee can, because Evelyn claimed every building needed a container of hardware nobody would ever use. Arthur logged the donated boards at a conservative value. Grant's name appeared on the exchange chart between Nina's lunches and 8 hours from a retired electrician who repaired the heater circuit. No banner appeared. Leah looked for one anyway. You cannot control the pump, Evelyn whispered from the front room. I can control whether anyone uses water. Marcus drinks constantly. I heard that, he whispered from the sofa. At the table, Tessa looked up. So did I. Everyone became silent. When the 2 hours ended, Tessa remained seated with her pencil beside the last page. Leah watched from the doorway. Well, 74. What do you need? 80. That's close. Tessa gave her a look sharp enough to repair glass. Leah corrected herself. That's 6 points of failure. Thank you. Tessa folded the exam pages and placed them in her binder. Her hands were steady until she tried to close the rings. The metal snapped against her thumb twice. You can take it again, Leah said. The practice test? The real one, if you have to. The real one costs $240. Leah sat across from her. Then don't have to. Tessa laughed despite herself. Excellent instruction. People pay Marcus for worse. From the schoolhouse came the sound of a desk being dragged, followed by Evelyn telling Marcus he had damaged history. Tessa looked toward the window. At my apartment, Dennis would be making soup. Alphabetically? He's on numbers now. Some kind of diet. She opened the binder again. I'll be here Monday. Leah wrote 6 study hours beside Tessa's name, and, after a moment, one beneath what this place gives back. A second attempt that doesn't cost. Extra. Donna's request came 3 days later. She did not text. She arrived at the schoolhouse alone, wearing rubber boots and carrying a cardboard tray of coffee. The absence of a camera was so conspicuous Leah almost mentioned it. Dana placed the tray on a desk. Before you assume anything, I'm here to ask. That's new. I can leave. Leah took a coffee. It had cream. What are you asking? The farmhouse dining room is torn apart. The contractor opened a wall, found old wiring, and used the phrase complete rethinking. Contractors enjoy suspense too. Dana smiled tiredly. There were shadows beneath her eyes Leah had never seen before. I'm meeting with 6 local vendors next Thursday. Caterer, florist, rental company, a few others. I need a room with tables. You have a barn. I have a barn full of plaster dust and a squirrel that no longer fears me. The schoolhouse isn't finished. It has heat, chairs, and a door that closes. That makes it our most advanced property. Leah leaned against the repaired window. You want to rent it? I want to use it. Those are different. Dana's expression tightened, but she nodded. Rent. Fine. The rate is the same for everyone. What is the rate? Leah had no idea. Arthur was summoned from the cottage. He arrived holding his calculator and wearing the solemn expression of a man who had waited his whole life for someone to ask this question. They calculated electricity, cleaning time, firewood, and a small building fund. Dana objected to being charged for cleaning if she left the room clean. Arthur added a refundable cleaning deposit. Leah objected to a family discount. Dana did not ask for one. $120 for 4 hours, Arthur concluded. Dana opened her purse. Payment after, Leah said. Why? In case the squirrel follows you. Dana wrote the date on the wall calendar Marcus had hung beside the chart. No orchard photographs, Leah said. No calling this a family project. No signs outside. I understand. And if you post anything, you name the schoolhouse separately. What is its name? The same question Grant had asked. Leah looked at the faded lettering above the blackboard. Bellwether School remained barely visible beneath years of dust. I'm working on it, Dana put on her coat. At the door, she paused. Can I see the platter? Leah stiffened. Not take it, Dana said. See it. They went to the cottage. Leah opened the cabinet and removed the blue platter. Dana sat at the table with it across her knees. I remember Mom using this when I got engaged, she said. She made those awful little sandwiches with olives. She made them for my graduation, too. From community college, high school. Dana winced. Leah pretended not to notice. She put it away after Dad died, Dana said, then started using it again the next Thanksgiving. I thought that meant she was better. Maybe she needed a platter. See, this is why nobody talks to you about feelings. Leah sat opposite her. You brought a photographer to my ruin. I apologized. No, you left. I was trying not to murder you in front of Bree. They both looked at the platter. I shouldn't have brought her, Dana said. I saw the windows and got excited. I thought, if the orchard showed something real instead of all those perfect table settings, people might believe me. Believe what? That I know what I'm doing. The admission rested between them. Leah ran her finger along a scratch in the glaze. Do you? No, Dana laughed softly. The farmhouse needs rewiring. Half the trees need to come out. The wedding market is full of women named Madison with restored barns and family money. You have family money. I have family property and a line of credit. Leah heard the distinction. Why didn't you say anything? Because Grant would start making lists and you would look pleased. I wouldn't. You look a little pleased now. I'm trying not to. Dana turned the platter over and read, School Supper, 1998. Did Mom serve dinner on this the night she made the promise? I think so. She must have been terrified of giving a speech, of people remembering who she was before Dad. Leah studied her sister. You understand that? I sell weddings in an orchard that barely grows apples. Dana returned the platter to the cabinet herself. Her vendor meeting paid the full rental rate. Leah watched through the cottage window as Dana arranged adults around the scarred desks and listened while they challenged her prices, parking assumptions, and spring timeline. Dana did not charm them. She took notes. When Nina from the food truck told her the proposed vendor fee was impossible, Dana crossed it out. At the end, she swept the floor. No photographs appeared online. Arthur deposited $120 in the coffee tin and changed the label to Building Fund. The tax balance no longer looked impossible, only rude. That night, Evelyn brought Leah the black and white photograph she had hidden beneath a county map on their first meeting. 22 adults sat at the schoolhouse desks. Evelyn stood beside the blackboard, younger but unmistakably severe. In the second row, Margaret Mercer wore a pale blouse and held a pencil against the paper with both hands. Her hair was short. Her smile was uncertain. On the board behind them, someone had written, Evening Practicals, 1981. Leah touched her mother's face. She looked scared. She was furious, Evelyn said. She missed 4 questions and thought I had designed them to embarrass her. Had you? 1. Leah looked closer. Margaret's worksheet was turned face down. She wouldn't let us see mistakes. No. Did Dad know? Eventually. He helped her practice store invoices. That surprised Leah more than the class itself. He never mocked her? Not for this. Evelyn sat beside her on the sofa. Your father had failures too. Loving badly was not his only talent. Leah smiled. Keep the photograph, Evelyn said. Why now? Because you stopped treating your mother's shame like an inheritance. Before Leah could answer, something struck the cottage roof. A second impact followed, heavier. Wind drove snow against the windows in white sheets. The lights dimmed. From outside came the violent crack of plastic tearing. They ran to the porch. The schoolhouse tarp had ripped free from one foundation ring. Its loose corner whipped above the roof like a sail. Marcus, who had been putting away tools, stood in the schoolyard shouting at Tessa to stay inside. Leah started down the steps. Evelyn seized the back of her coat. No ladders. The whole tarp will go. Then it goes. Marcus dragged a length of rope toward the flapping corner. The wind knocked him sideways. He caught himself against the schoolhouse wall. Get inside, Leah yelled. He either did not hear or ignored her. The tarp tore across the middle. Blue plastic vanished over the ridge, taking 2 ropes with it. Snow swept onto the exposed shingles. Almost immediately, water began tracing the ceiling seams inside. They moved desks, tools, Arthur's folders, and Tessa's study binder into the cottage. Nina arrived after Marcus called, bringing storage tubs from her truck. Dana came with moving blankets. Grant came last, carrying plywood and swearing at the road. By midnight, the cottage held 8 adults, 14 desk drawers, 3 lamps, 1 blackboard ledge, and every record Arthur considered worth saving. The schoolhouse stood dark across the yard. Leah sat on the cottage kitchen floor with her back against the cabinet. Snow melted from her hair onto Margaret's photograph. We have to close it, she said. Nobody contradicted her. Marcus lowered himself beside her. His knuckles were scraped from the rope. For how long? He asked. Until the roof is real. That could be months. I know. From the front room, Tessa asked Arthur a question about percentages. Nina unfolded a table against the wall. Evelyn put water on for coffee. Dana and Grant argued quietly over where to stack the repaired windows. Marcus nodded toward them. Does that look closed? It looks crowded. The building failed tonight. The thing you built moved 20 yards. I didn't build them. No. You gave them somewhere to arrive. Leah looked through the kitchen doorway. Tessa had opened her binder. Arthur was drawing a problem on the back of a grocery bag. Grant held the lamp while Dana swept melted snow toward the porch. The teacher's cottage had become the smallest room any of them had ever needed. Leah rested her head against the cabinet. What do you want? Marcus asked. For once, the question did not feel like a test. She looked at Margaret in the photograph, sitting at a desk with her mistakes hidden beneath both hands. I want to open the doors again, Leah said. Marcus's shoulder touched hers. Then we need a real roof. This time, when he looked at her mouth, Leah closed the distance. The kiss was brief, cold from the storm, and tasted like bad coffee. From the front room, Evelyn called, The walls are stone, not soundproof. Marcus rested his forehead against Leah's. Amenities, he whispered. Leah laughed into his coat while the snow kept falling. By morning, the storm had laid 6 inches of snow over the schoolyard and 1 inch across the west side of the schoolhouse floor. The adults dispersed slowly. Nina left first to open her food truck. Tessa drove Arthur home because his sedan could not clear the ridge. Dana and Grant stayed long enough to shovel the path from the cottage to the gate, arguing about where their mother used to keep the good snow shovel. Marcus slept for 40 minutes sitting upright on the sofa. Leah did not sleep. She stood beneath the torn roof with a bucket in each hand and watched daylight come through places where daylight did not belong. A roofer from Miller's Ridge arrived the following afternoon. He spent 20 minutes on a ladder, 10 in the attic space, and 5 writing numbers. Temporary repair through winter. Maybe 1,200, he said. Full west slope in spring, replacing bad deck boards, 7,800. More if the tower framing is worse than it looks. Can it be less if the tower looks worse from farther away? He tucked his pencil behind his ear. No. Can we do demolition? Not on that pitch unless you've done it before. Leah had not. Neither had Marcus. Grant had helped re-roof garages but admitted, when asked directly, that he had never worked around a bell tower. The estimate sat on the cottage table for 3 days. On the 4th, Arthur placed the tax notice beside it and began building a budget. "We have $191 in the building fund," he said. "Excellent," Leah replied. "We can afford the word roof. Dana owes for 2 future rentals. She doesn't owe." She asked about dates. She offered to prepay. Leah looked at him. "When?" "When you were asleep." People had begun conducting business around her unconscious body. Marcus contributed the income from 2 classes, minus the amount he needed for gas. Nina offered the food truck's unused commissary space for his lessons on Mondays. Tessa said nothing about money, but she brought a bundle of insulation left from repairs at her apartment. Grant called the roofing supplier who served his store. He secured contractor pricing and 60 days to pay for materials. "No sign," Leah said over the phone. "I didn't mention a sign. I'm mentioning it. You make gratitude exhausting. You make gifts require legal review." "Fine." "No sign." Even with discounted materials and volunteer labor on the safe groundwork, they remained thousands short. Evelyn read the estimate, folded it, and put it beneath the blue platter. "Why there?" Leah asked. "Because the last time we needed money for this building, we held a supper. That supper ended with a promise nobody kept. The soup was still good. They planned another one. Leah objected to calling it a fundraiser. Arthur objected to charging too little. Nina objected to Arthur's menu because none of it could be prepared in advance. Marcus objected to Nina's menu because it required him to cook again. Evelyn objected to the phrase community supper on the flyer. "Every supper is a community supper if people come," she said. "Write roof." The flyer read, "The roof leaks, come eat." Marcus posted it at the food truck. Tessa placed copies at the employment office and certification center. Dana shared it through the orchard page after asking permission and using no photographs of the schoolhouse interior. Grant put one beside every register at Mercer Hardware. The event had to be held in the machine repair garage owned by one of Tessa's former co-workers because the schoolhouse remained closed. People paid $20 if they could, less if they could not, and more if they wanted to. Nina served stew. Marcus taught volunteers how to calculate portions without beginning a lecture. Arthur took money at the door and issued handwritten receipts nobody requested. Evelyn sat beside Margaret's photograph at a small table near the entrance. Leah watched adults stop when they recognized faces in the old picture. Some remembered evening classes. Others remembered parents, spouses, or co-workers who had attended. They did not tell grand stories. They said things like, "He learned enough math to stop getting cheated on over time," and "She filled out her own loan application after that." One man touched the photograph of Margaret and said, "Your mother used to bring extra pencils." Leah had no memory of Margaret ever buying pencils. At the end of the night, Arthur counted $3,412 after expenses. Leah checked his arithmetic, even though he was an accountant. "It isn't enough," she said. "It is not supposed to be enough by itself. The building fund, Dana's advance rentals, Marcus's classes, Leah's tax refund, and the supper proceeds covered the temporary repair and most of the spring work." Grant arranged payment terms for the remaining materials. The roofer agreed to let volunteers handle cleanup and ground-level preparation. Nobody handed Leah a miracle. They handed her smaller bills, prepaid room hours, lumber, stew, and Saturdays. She signed the roofing agreement with a pen from Arthur's briefcase. This time, no sibling nudged the paper toward her. The temporary repair went on beneath gray January skies. For weeks, the schoolhouse smelled of wet wood drying. Classes met at Nina's commissary, around the cottage table, and once in Mercer Hardware's stockroom when an ice storm closed the ridge road. Grant did not put up a banner. He did, however, correct Marcus 3 times during a lesson on inventory costs. "You're welcome to teach," Marcus told him. "I have a store to run." Then stop attending for free. Grant put $20 in the coffee tin. Tessa passed her certification exam in February with an 86. She opened the email at the cottage table. Leah, Marcus, and Evelyn waited on the other side of the room because Tessa had threatened to leave if anyone breathed near her. "Well?" Leah asked. Tessa turned the laptop around. For 1 second, nobody spoke. Then Evelyn said, 6 points to spare." Tessa laughed and covered her face with both hands. The sound became a sob before she could stop it. Leah crossed the room and held her. Tessa resisted for exactly one breath. A maintenance contractor offered her work the following week. It paid less than Kenley had, but it came with training hours and health insurance. Tessa kept her weekday table arrangement even after she no longer needed it. "I paid for 8 weeks," she said. "You've been here 12. Then I owe windows." She put herself on the spring schedule to teach sash repair. Marcus's restaurant classes grew to the point where Nina asked him to add a second night. He began charging a set amount, with 3 reduced-rate seats in every session. Arthur helped him register a small training business. Leah teased him about becoming official until he showed her the first invoice with Marcus Boone, Practical Food Systems, across the top. "It sounds like I repair refrigerators," he said. "You could add commas. Where? Everywhere. It looks successful." He kissed her beside the cottage refrigerator, which shut off the moment he leaned against the counter. Their relationship formed in the spaces work left behind. Coffee on the porch before Leah's shift. 15-minute dinners. Arguments over whether a hammer had been misplaced or borrowed. Marcus did not move into the cottage, though his toothbrush appeared in a mug beside hers and remained there under Evelyn's disapproving inspection. When March rain came, the temporary roof held. The full work began in April. The roofer removed the west slope while Grant and Marcus hauled debris. Tessa cut replacement decking. Dana brought sandwiches from Nina and labeled each kind in handwriting that looked ready for a wedding menu. Evelyn sat beneath an umbrella, recording who had promised which hours and accusing Arthur of undervaluing pie. Leah worked everywhere and finished nothing alone. The new shingles were plain charcoal gray. No copper, no dramatic restoration, no bell ringing over the ridge. The tower remained slightly crooked because straightening it would have required money they did not have. The roofer said it was stable. "Stable and crooked," Marcus told Leah. "We have a theme." They painted the schoolroom warm white and immediately regretted it when the old plaster showed through in yellow patches. Leah applied another coat too quickly, trapping moisture. 3 days later, a section bubbled and peeled. She stood beneath it with the putty knife hanging from her hand. "I ruined it." Tessa examined the wall. "You ruined 6 square feet. It's in the middle. Failure enjoys visibility." They scraped it back and did it again. Dana ran monthly vendor workshops at the same rate as everyone else. Grant supplied materials at cost and logged every discount with Arthur. Neither arrangement became forgiveness, but both became reliable. The name came from the wall chart. A second attempt that doesn't cost. Extra had become the phrase people pointed to most. Marcus shortened it to Second Bell during a naming argument because the first bell called people when they were expected, and the second called them after they thought they had missed their chance. Evelyn called it sentimental. Arthur wrote it on every receipt anyway. Leah added house because she wanted the cottage included in the meaning. The schoolroom was where adults entered once they were ready. The teacher's cottage was where they sat first, drank coffee, admitted what they did not know, and decided whether to cross the yard. Second Bell House went on the opening flyers. The night before the doors were due to reopen, Leah finished touching up the blackboard trim at 11. The room held 12 repaired desks, folding tables along the wall, Tessa's window tools, Marcus's lesson board, and a small shelf for Arthur's ledgers. The 4 boxes remained beneath what this place gives back. Leah had still not filled one for herself. Headlights crossed the repaired windows. Grant's truck stopped in the yard. Dana's car followed. They entered carrying a long object wrapped in a moving blanket. "What is that?" Leah asked. Grant smiled in a way that made him look younger. "The sign. I ordered a sign. Yours is painted plywood. This will last." He and Dana unwrapped a carved oak panel. The wood was beautiful, sealed against weather, the lettering deep and clean. Second Bell House. Beneath it, in smaller letters, a Mercer family legacy. Leah stared at the last line. Dana did not look pleased. "I told him." "Told me what?" Grant said. "Our parents bought the place. Mom started this. We all worked on it." "You promised no family name," Leah said. "That was when I donated lumber. This is a gift for the opening. It says the whole place is the gift." Grant's smile disappeared. "That's not what it says. It's exactly what it says." Marcus stepped in from the cottage and stopped when he saw the sign. Evelyn came behind him, silent for once. Grant gripped one end of the oak panel. "I paid for this." Leah looked around the room at the windows Tessa repaired, the floor built from damaged stock. The roof bought $20 and 1 bowl of stew at a time. Then she looked at her brother. "That," she said, "doesn't make it yours." Grant's face reddened. I did not say it was mine. You put our name under it. It is our name. It's the name on the hardware store. It's the name on Dad's invoices. It's the name people already know. Put it there, and everything inside this room becomes something the Mercers graciously gave Bellwether. Our mother did give it. Our mother let it sit for 26 years. Evelyn drew in a breath. Leah heard it and kept going. You knew this place existed. You photographed it from the gate, handed me the worst angle, and assumed I'd sell. Now that people are coming, you want legacy carved in oak. That is not fair. No, the property division wasn't fair. We used the assessments. You used my exhaustion. Dana closed her eyes. Grant set down his end of the sign. It struck the floor harder than he intended. You agreed. I did. You signed the papers. I did that too. Then stop acting like we stole something. Leah looked at the beautiful oak panel lying across two desks. You took the things that already looked valuable, she said. You left me the place where Mom learned not to be ashamed because you thought it was empty. That was the punishment. This is what came afterward. What is? Me deciding who gets to name it. The schoolhouse held the silence differently now. The repaired windows did not rattle. The floor did not bend beneath them. Even the yellow stain where Leah had ruined the plaster looked settled into the wall. Grant glanced at Marcus and Evelyn. Can we talk as a family? No, Leah said. They worked here. They don't need to be part of this. They already are. Dana stepped beside the sign. Grant, I told you the second line was a mistake. You said it was too long. I said it was wrong and too long. You helped choose the wood. I thought it only said Second Bell House. Grant looked betrayed in a way that almost made Leah laugh. You approved the font. The font is lovely, Dana said. The claim is not. He turned to Evelyn. You knew Mom wanted this reopened? Yes. Wouldn't she want her family remembered? Evelyn considered him for so long that Grant shifted his weight. Margaret spent half her life trying to control which version of her people remembered, she said. I won't continue the habit for her. That isn't an answer. It is the only one she left me. Grant stared down at the carved words. I paid $600 for this. Leah's stomach tightened. $600 could cover months of electricity. It could buy paint, heater repairs, or most of Tessa's certification fee. The sign was more beautiful than the plywood one waiting in the cottage. Refusing it felt wasteful, proud. Exactly the kind of choice her siblings expected her to make. Marcus did not tell her what to do. He stood beside the stove with his hands in his pockets. Leah crouched and ran her fingers over the oak letters. The top stays, she said. The bottom goes. You can't erase carved lettering, then cut it off. That will ruin the proportions. It'll still work. Grant made an exasperated sound. Everything doesn't have to show damage, to be honest. No, but this one does. He looked at her, then at the sign. What do you want under it? Nothing? People should know who built it. They can come inside. Grant lifted his end, wrapped the moving blanket over the oak, and carried it toward the door alone. Dana reached for the other end. He pulled it away. I've got it. Grant. I said, I've got it. The sign disappeared into the dark schoolyard. Leah stood very still until his truck started. Dana picked up her purse. I didn't know he'd added that. I believe you. I'm sorry. For tonight, for more than I can fit into tonight, it was not enough. Leah also knew it was not nothing. Opening starts at 10, she said. I'll be here at 8. You don't have to decorate. I was going to clean the bathroom. That would be useful. Dana nodded and left. Evelyn began stacking the desks that Grant had disturbed. Marcus waited until Leah took the other side. You okay? He asked. No. Want a lecture about boundaries? I'll put your name under damaged stock. They moved the desk into line. At 9 the next morning, Leah hung her painted plywood sign from the 2 iron hooks above the porch. She had lettered it herself, and the word Bell slanted slightly uphill. Tessa said that made it visible from the road. Dana scrubbed the cottage bathroom without rearranging anything. Arthur counted the coffee tin. Nina set up soup and sandwiches along the schoolhouse's back wall. Marcus wrote the day's sessions on the blackboard, misspelling vinaigrette twice before abandoning the word. Evelyn wore a navy dress instead of coveralls. She denied having dressed for the occasion. At 9:45, Grant's truck came over the cattle guard. He parked beside the gate and lowered the tailgate. The oak sign lay inside. The bottom line had been cut away. Grant had planed the edge, sanded it, and applied a quick coat of sealant. The remaining panel was not perfectly centered. The lower margin was narrower than the upper one. It looked sturdy and a little wounded. Leah touched the fresh edge. "You did this last night? The finish is still tacky. Don't touch it. You could have waited for it to dry." Opening was at 10. Together they removed the plywood sign and hung the oak one. Second Bell House. Nothing beneath it, no possession disguised as tribute. Grant stepped back. "It needs something on the wall inside. Contributor names. Arthur has all of them. Mom too." Leah looked toward the cottage, where Margaret's class photograph stood on the table. "All the names in the photograph," she said. "Not only hers." Grant's jaw tightened, then relaxed. "Okay." He put the painted plywood sign in his truck rather than throwing it away. "Why are you taking that? It's a sign. It's crooked. It's temporary stock." Leah smiled despite herself. "You're impossible. So I've been told." People arrived before the hour. Not crowds, not reporters, not anyone important enough to make the morning official. Adults came in work boots, restaurant shoes, church clothes, and the cleanest versions of their everyday coats. Some went directly into the schoolhouse. Others stopped at the teacher's cottage first. The cottage had become the place Leah had not known they needed. A recently laid-off bookkeeper sat at the kitchen table with Arthur before joining the employment workshop. A mechanic who claimed he was only there for Nina's soup stood on the porch listening to Marcus describe his next class. A woman studying for her equivalency exam asked whether she had to register under her full name. Leah told her she could sit down first. At 10:15, Evelyn struck the blackboard ledge with a wooden pointer. No one had found or restored a bell. Her sharp crack worked better. "Seats," she said. The room obeyed. Leah remained near the door, while Evelyn described the old evening classes. She did not turn Margaret into a saint. She said Margaret had hidden wrong answers, argued over fractions, and once left halfway through a lesson because she was sure everyone could see what she did not know. She returned the following Thursday, Evelyn said. That was the important part. Grant stood beside Dana at the back. He looked at the class photograph hanging beneath the exchange chart. The typed label named every adult Evelyn could remember and left blank lines for the ones she could not. Marcus taught food costs after lunch. Tessa demonstrated how to remove old glazing without breaking the glass. Arthur held an open bookkeeping table. Dana led an orchard vendor session and paid the posted rental rate before she began. Grant spent most of the day fixing a loose porch rail nobody had asked him to fix. By closing, the coffee tin contained enough to cover the day's utilities and add $83 to the tax fund. The floor was muddy. Someone had spilled soup on the lectern. One repaired window stuck halfway down because the spring air had swollen the sash. Leah locked the front door after the last person left. On the wall, all 4 boxes beneath "What This Place Gives Back" were full. Tessa's quiet. Marcus's permission to begin badly. People coming back. So did we. Beneath them, someone had drawn a 5th box around the space Leah kept leaving empty. Evelyn held out the chalk. "I don't know what to write," Leah said. "Then write that. It's permanent. It's chalk." Leah looked around the schoolroom. In one day, people had already scuffed the new paint and moved the desks out of her careful rows. The building no longer resembled an achievement. It resembled work waiting for tomorrow. She wrote, "A place I don't have to earn alone." Marcus read it over her shoulder. "You still have to track your hours," he said. She leaned back against him. "Ruin the moment. I'm consistent." Behind them, Grant picked up the soup-stained lectern and carried it outside to clean. Dana found the missing bathroom towels folded beneath Arthur's ledgers. Evelyn erased Marcus's misspelled vinaigrette before anyone could preserve it. Nothing was settled. It was simply in motion. The motion continued. Tessa began teaching window repair one Saturday each month, while working weekdays for the maintenance contractor. Marcus filled 2 evening sessions and discovered he was better at teaching when he admitted which calculations he still checked twice. Arthur's Saturday table became crowded enough that he recruited another retired accountant, then complained about supervising staff. Dana's orchard hosted its first paid gathering in June. It was smaller than her original plan and made a modest profit. She rented the schoolhouse for vendor meetings without asking for family access. Grant kept the hardware account at cost. When customers praised the schoolhouse, he learned to say, "My sister runs it," before describing whatever materials he had supplied. Leah reduced her warehouse shifts instead of quitting. The room fees, classes, and exchanges covered the property's basic expenses, not a comfortable salary. She enrolled in one community college course in the fall and studied at the teacher's cottage kitchen table after Tessa went home. She failed her first anatomy quiz. Marcus put it on the refrigerator. "I hate you," she said. "You got 6 questions right. There were 20. Room for visible improvement." The paper stayed. At the first anniversary supper, the schoolhouse roof carried a thin layer of snow without leaking. Nina served stew again. Arthur presented a financial report nobody had requested. Evelyn brought an apple pie and recorded 2 hours for it until Leah reduced the entry to 1. Grant arrived with a box of new door hardware and no store banner. Dana came without a camera and asked before placing flowers on the lectern. After supper, Grant found Leah stacking chairs. "I thought you'd sell it," he said. She set down a chair. That first day, he continued. "I thought you'd sell, pay off your car, and be back asking what to do next. I know. I told myself that giving you the property was practical. No employees, no loan." He looked toward the cottage windows glowing across the yard. "If I admitted taking care of Mom was work, I had to admit I left most of it to you." Leah waited. "I'm sorry," he said. The words did not repair 3 years. They did not return her savings or remove the way rent-free still lived in her memory. But Grant looked as though he understood that. "I needed you," she said. "I know. You didn't come. I know." Dana stood in the doorway, coat folded over her arm. "Neither did I. Not enough." Leah looked at both of them. "I'm not going to keep proving it." Grant nodded. Dana did too. They finished stacking the chairs. Later, Leah sat with Evelyn on the teacher's cottage porch. Marcus was inside, washing mugs and singing badly to the radio. Snow brightened the schoolyard. The oak sign hung above the schoolhouse door, its cut edge weathering darker than the rest. "Margaret asked me something near the end," Evelyn said. Leah waited. She asked whether a person could wait so long to apologize that the apology became selfish. "What did you tell her?" "That it usually starts selfish." "Did she say what she wanted to apologize for?" "No." Leah looked down at her hands. There was no hidden message, no final explanation that transformed neglect into love, or love into innocence. Her mother had understood second chances, and still failed to ask for one. "I used to think getting the worst property meant I was the least loved," Leah said. Evelyn folded her hands over her coat. "Families are poor measuring instruments." Across the yard, Marcus turned off the last schoolhouse light. For a moment, the repaired windows reflected only snow. Then the cottage door opened behind Leah, spilling warmth across the porch. Tomorrow, adults would return carrying ledgers, tools, mistakes, and questions they had postponed for years. Leah rose and left the schoolhouse dark. The cottage stayed lit.